We had the highest attendance numbers. Number two, you went to Canada, the diaspora, they supported South Africa. The stadium in the South Korea game, majority of the people were South African. So you think we'll worry about the person that is tweeting there from the country that hates us? They tried to run a campaign. We defeated that campaign. Mexicans loved South Africans. Americans loved South Africans. We were the most loved country. You think we can worry about somebody tweeting here in South Africa bad about us? No, the majority of people loved us. We were so loved. I've never felt so much love. Atlanta threw out the red carpet for South Africa. We were so loved. You go to Mexico. Mexico threw out the red carpet for South Africa. Monterrey, it was South Africa. Now you want to tell me about the few people that tweets bad about us.
Okay, my last question to you is, and finally on this one, do you think South Africa's economy has suffered because of the marches, because of the June 30th deadline, because of the narrative around undocumented migrants and xenophobic attacks, etc.? Has there been any tangible impact on the economy there?
Well, it's too early to say. Surely there will be. We don't want to be at war with our African countries and brothers. But, if it means that we should accept stuff that other countries are not accepting in the interest of keeping a good opinion of us from people that don't really matter at times. If you love South Africa, you will understand that we are peace-loving people. We have hosted people here for 30 years without papers. Enough is enough now. They must go home. They will go home. And the South African economy, if in the event that we are suffering, we are a resilient economy. We have a resilient economy. They will bounce back. We will work hard towards that. The government of national unity is doing a good job. The president is doing a good job. So we will bounce back, and the ones that truly want to understand what's happening, we are saying all Africans are welcome, but don't come here illegally. What is so difficult? I'm a minister in the cabinet of South Africa, and I must show my papers when I walk into any country on the continent, any elsewhere. Why is it that there's an expectation that we must just, no man can feed another man's children while his children are starving? Our people are starving of jobs. They're starving of healthcare. Let these leaders that have so many bad things to say about our country ask themselves that question. I said, why are your people running away from you? Why are they running to us?
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including my conversation with Google's CEO, Sundar Pichai, as well as interviews with former Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard and many others. Until next time, it's bye for now.
From the BBC, that was...
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. Welcome to the last day of July, folks. Heading into August long weekend, Terry Fox Day coming up Monday. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. This is your morning show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Information Radio is the name of the program. We're on air till 8:37 AM. In Winnipeg today, lots of sunshine, a little bit more of a calmer day, a high of 28, so pretty straight ahead summer day. Still with humidex feeling like 33 in the city. Over in your city of Brandon, sunny this morning, 30% chance of afternoon showers, high 27, humidex 32. And up in Thompson, some sunshine for you as well to start the day in your city, and a high of 25, humidex 27. So all in all, looking pretty good for this Friday. Let's say hello to the team. Mr. Abby Adiyemi. I never introduce you first, so I'm doing it today. There's Abby, our senior tech on the show, who also will hear when we talk to him about weather through the program. Mr. Darren Marash is your producer of your YouTube stream. Say hi to him there. Hi, Dee. And then there is May McKillop. Nice to see you, May. May's directing the program today, and we'll cover your commute. So it's 2 minutes to 6 o'clock. We're about to get the latest in international and national news on World Report on CBC, but let's begin with local news headlines and Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg imam says his members are scared after their mosque was damaged. Winnipeg police are investigating it as a potential hate crime. The Rahma in Islamic Center says bullets were fired into their building on Wednesday night. Adding security video captured two people walking up and breaking more windows. We're going to hear the reaction to this from the community coming up. And a bit of good news for people in Dauphin who have been without a hospital for the past month after heavy flooding forced the closure of the regional health center on July 1st. It's expected to remain closed for months. However, Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says they will soon put temporary lab services, including blood work, EKGs, and x-rays, into a provincial building in Dauphin. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather. In the first hour of Information Radio today, we are going to be talking about our faith column, or having our faith column, rather. What we're talking about on it is connected to international news. The world watches U.S. and Iran trade missiles in the Middle East, but we're going to look at the Iranian Baha'i community to find out how that faith community is coping with our columnist. That's right after 6. World Report is next.
On cue.
A wood floor, real glass windows, room for the girls and one for us.
For the Ojibwe actor Miigwyn Fairbrother, Little House on the Prairie was a story that once left Indigenous people out. Now he stars in the Netflix reboot, and he's helping tell a different version of that story. He'll be here to tell you why that matters.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Desjardins. The world is watching what happens next in Gaza. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that a deal has been reached to disarm Hamas. He says the militant group has agreed to a phased disarmament under a transitional administration and international oversight. The deal would also require Israel to withdraw. CBC's Willie Lowry joins me from Washington. Willie, break down what we know about this proposed deal.
U.S. President Donald Trump is calling this a, quote, monumental step in a process that has taken months to get to. Trump says that Hamas has agreed to complete disarmament. The U.S. president saying it will take place in phases and that as disarmament is completed, Israeli forces will withdraw from Gaza. And an international stabilization force will work with a newly created Palestinian police force to take responsibility for the enclave. Several media outlets are reporting that under the agreement, Hamas's heavy weapons will be inventoried and then stored under Palestinian supervision, despite a ceasefire in place between Israel and Hamas since October 2025. The two sides have continued to engage in sporadic fighting. According to the UN, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since then.
And what can we expect next?
So there are lots of questions still to be worked out. Chief among them, whether Israel will agree to this plan. So far, they have yet to respond, but just before Trump announced the agreement, the Israeli Prime Minister's office attempted to shut down the notion that a deal was close by saying it did not meet its requirements. A senior U.S. official who briefed reporters on the agreement said the U.S. was confident Israel would adhere to it, and if they don't, President Trump will be, quote, very disappointed. Hamas has yet to officially comment on the agreement as well. Every move forward is likely to be met with extreme distrust from both sides.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
Spain's President Pedro Sanchez says what happened in the Spanish territory of Ceuta yesterday was a violation of Spanish territorial sovereignty. At least 18 people are dead after nearly 50,000 people swam from Morocco, breaching the border. Spanish troops have deployed to the city after local officials warned they were overwhelmed. Some migrants are now heading back to Morocco through a coastal fence under the watchful eye of Spanish border guards. Search teams in northwestern Pakistan have recovered 4 bodies following an avalanche on Broad Peak Mountain. 10 mountaineers remain missing, including expedition leader Nirmal Nims Persia. He's an experienced Nepalese-born climber and a former member of the British Special Forces. Persia is best known for scaling all of Earth's 14 8,000-meter peaks in just 6 months. Pakistani authorities have not confirmed whether he is among the dead. Ranchers in British Columbia say they're worried about the survival of their cattle industry. The province is restricting agricultural water use amid severe drought conditions across the region. Reduced water access means producers will have to buy extra feed and risk losing existing crops. Brady Strachan has the details.
I'm just so proud of this group of heifers.
Trudy Schweb shows off a pen of dark brown Angus heifers on her 5th-generation ranch near Salmon Arm.
When you get to look at pretty cattle like this, life is pretty good.
But pervasive drought in the region is threatening local salmon species. And this week, the province ordered producers to stop irrigating their forage crops.
This water shutoff is probably going to cost us $100,000 at least in feed.
Fish biologist Eleanor McGrath says the order is a last resort to save Chinook salmon from record low water levels.
These fish are fairly large in size, so they are especially susceptible to low stream flows.
Kevin Boone with the BC Cattlemen's Association says a possible long-term solution is to build up more water storage like reservoirs.
And we're asking government to invest in that because it's the future of the province and the food security for everybody in the province.
Water Minister Randine Neal points to $100 million in water investments, but agrees emergency shutoffs aren't sustainable.
We don't want to go through this again, so we are going to do everything we can to ensure they have enough water.
Meanwhile, Schweb worries about the future of her family ranch.
It's a lot. You hate to walk away from it. Like, how many times do we have to put up with this?
Leaving producers to foot the bill for protecting the river. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
The debate surrounding transgender athletes in women's sports is once again making headlines in the U.S. The WNBA has suspended a minority co-owner of the Seattle Storm after she confronted 2 fans during a game earlier this week. It stems from comments made by Indiana Fever star Sophie Cunningham. Reporter Steve Futterman has the details from Los Angeles.
Sophie Cunningham is one of the most recognizable stars in the WNBA.
Off to Cunningham, a deep 3.
But her comments about whether transgender women should be allowed to take part in women's sports has renewed the debate. Cunningham has been vocal in her belief that they should not.
I think it's kind of common sense. I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport.
Those remarks last week led to a confrontation on Tuesday in Seattle. Cunningham's team, the Indiana Fever, was playing the Seattle Storm. 2 teenage girls at the game brought signs supporting Cunningham.
We were just sitting there with our signs that said, like, we love Sophie.
That's when one of the Seattle Storm's owners, Celeste Keaton, angrily confronted them.
Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. She's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And then she told us that we were effing insane.
The league fined and suspended Keaton 5 games. The team has denounced her comments. Seattle head coach Sonia Rahman.
We always want to be an area where people feel welcome.
Some have raised questions about whether this is in fact a major problem. There are no transgender women playing either women's college basketball or in the WNBA. This latest debate, though, has reignited the issue, and many political observers predict it will be a major talking point by Republicans in the upcoming U.S. midterm elections. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
It's been nearly 50 years since Romanian gymnast Nadia Comaneci made history in Montreal, becoming the first person to ever score a perfect 10 at the Olympic Games. Now she has returned to the city to celebrate that milestone. Natalia Weichsel reports.
Nadia Comaneci poses in front of a sculpture of the Olympic rings in downtown Montreal. The retired Romanian gymnast is visiting Canada this week, celebrating 50 years since the 1976 Games.
It's always emotional to be back here in Montreal.
At just 14 years old, Comaneci was the first gymnast in Olympic history to score a perfect 10.
It happened so fast that I did not know that I made history.
A performance so iconic, it inspired a generation of women to follow. Taika Bayarjon is with Heritage Montreal.
After the Olympics, a lot of gym opened because of this connection and this pride and this new interest for that sports because of this little teenager.
Another major legacy of the 76 Games was the introduction of women's rowing to the Olympic program. Among the athletes competing was Canadian rower Tricia Smith.
When the flag hit the light of the stadium, there was this roar that went up that I'll never forget.
Smith, now president of the Canadian Olympic Committee, says that 5 decades later, women's sports has taken on a whole new dimension.
At the time, we were rowing half the distance because they thought that there might be problems with you having children after. So there's just a lot more education, a lot more awareness.
As for Nadia Comaneci,
So I thank the 14-year-old girl.
she says she never thought that as a teenager, she'd make such a lasting impact on Olympic history. Natalia Weichsel, CBC News, Montreal.
And finally, Calgary-born pop star Tate McRae is set to take center stage in Montreal this weekend. She headlines Osheaga tomorrow night for her only Canadian festival appearance of the year. Gates open at Parc Jean Drapeau today for 3 full days of music. Festival organizers expect up to 50,000 fans will pour onto the island each day. That puts this 19th edition on pace for the highest overall ticket sales in the event's history. But it's not about being greedy, it's a welcome boost for live music after several challenging years for major summer events across the country. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Sheehan Desjardins.
Well, we made it to the end of July, Manitoba, after quite a month of weather, right? Including this week, just incredible. It feels positively cool today. It is 18 degrees at 6:10 a.m. We'll get into your forecast in a moment. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. Thanks for joining us live on 89.3 FM on the app or watching on YouTube. You're on CBC. This hour on the show, we're going to talk about our faith column. John Longhurst will be in to tell us more about an interesting angle on a national story. With the world watching the U.S. and Iran trade missiles in the Middle East, we're going to look at how Canada's Iranian Baha'i community is coping here in our country. So stay tuned for that. Also, we'll have a conversation that gets into the weeds and encourages you to do the same. We'll talk about the International Monarch Monitoring Blitz. It's an annual conversation. Butterfly numbers are very important, and we'll hear more about why. Stay tuned. Heather Wells is in with our latest headlines from CBC Manitoba.
Good morning. Well, members of Winnipeg's Islamic community are shaken after an attack on a mosque. It happened Wednesday night outside the Rahma Islamic Center on Watt. Members were inside when they say a car drove by, firing shots into a window. A security camera later captured 2 suspects walking up to the mosque, breaking more windows. We're going to hear more reaction to that. Mosquito fogging is back. It's set to begin in several parts of Winnipeg today. The insecticide program's been mandated by the province as it responds to high levels of the mosquitoes responsible for West Nile virus. So the city says today's fogging will commence in some northern and southern neighborhoods. We'll tell you exactly where in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
So Heather, yesterday at this time, we were talking about the storm overnight.
Yeah.
And of course it was 6 in the morning. You know, we're talking about lightning and thunder, and we know there's branches everywhere. We didn't know the number of customers. And then obviously you guys in the news department confirmed it was like 30,000 people.
Yeah.
By the end of the day, I was just like looking at my Facebook feed and watching trees again, huge trees just lifted, uprooted, thrown over, trampolines, a couple
landing
yards
on
over.
someone's driveway.
Yeah, I think that was Lorette. I mean, very, very unusual storm. Now, we had that tornado previously in, was it White Ridge?
In White Ridge, yeah.
White Ridge, yeah. And so it was interesting to me as I reflected back. Remember yesterday I was saying that at night I was sleeping and I heard what I thought was a plane because it sounded so unusual. And I'm like, that plane's really close. Why is that plane really close? And then all of a sudden these huge flashes. Well, it wasn't a plane in the end because my head had made it a plane. It was just, I've never heard a storm like that.
It was just incredible.
Yeah. I started Googling in the afternoon. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. What does it sound like when there's a bad storm, when there's the wind, the straight line winds versus tornadic activity? And some of the people were describing airplane sounds. And I thought, wow, that's just wild.
It wasn't just you.
Yep.
Yeah, and the lightning, that was what was incredible. Environment Canada says there were almost 3,000 lightning strikes in the city of Winnipeg. 3,000.
That's crazy. It's crazy. So it's just been so unusual, and people obviously will continue with cleanup today. But I just thought it was interesting in hindsight because I thought,
it wasn't just you. That's that sound.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to try to tape it. I should sleep with a recorder beside my bed.
You're always on the job.
See, all right, we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Heather is back on the job, actually. We have to let her get back to the newsroom. Her next local cast is coming up at 6:30. Now, today, much less active than what we have just all lived through. Obviously, people continuing with some cleanup. But Abby, good morning to you.
Good morning, Marcy. We are looking at a much fresher, slightly a cooler start across the regions as we head into the weekend. We're seeing clear skies across most of the regions that will gradually transition to a mix of sun and clouds by the afternoon period. But here in the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg and nearby, starting the day, temperatures around 13 at the Forks and 18 at the airport, 18 at the Forks and 13 at the airport this morning. We're looking at a comfortable start, a mix of sun and clouds by the afternoon period. We will see the winds shift at some point, pushing our highs into around the 28, 29 with a humidity close to 33 this morning. And across the southern regions, similar conditions. We're seeing 18 around the Morden area, 13 around Brandon, 14 in the Dauphin area. Gimli also at 14. Most of the region, Marcy, crawling close to 28 degrees up. Not similar conditions. We're seeing just those chilly, foggy conditions around the Thompson and the Churchill area with just a slim chance of showers and afternoon thunderstorm risk in the areas. But we'll see highs close to 25 around Tudula Lake and, of course, the Pa, Flin Flon, Thompson, similar conditions. So it's more like a cool start across the province. This time yesterday, we were already in the 20s, but look at it right now. We're just close to 18 degrees in the city.
No doubt. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Just to stay with that for one more second, the cold spot right now is Thompson, as mentioned, but it's 6 degrees only with shallow fog. And the warm spot right now is over 20, but it's Victoria Beach at 23. So I think today's going to be pretty nice, which will be great for the long weekend for folks. Okay, let's get into what's happening on the commuter line. May McKillop is here. Good morning.
Good morning. Good start to the day for the commuter line, but not a great day for commuters. The lights are out at St. James and Sargent and King Edward and Notre Dame as well. Just got a call about those two areas, and I can see on the Manitoba Hydro power map that on Pembina Plaza, the lights are also out. And with the construction on the overpass there, from Pembina onto Abinogi-Mikina, it's going to be a slow morning in that area, I assume. There's probably other areas around the city where the lights are out, so please give me a call and I can keep track of what's going on with the power this morning. That number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, the war between U.S., Israel, and Iran is on the minds of many Canadians, and particularly those with ties to the region are watching the situation with great concern. Now, one of those groups with ties are people from the Baha'i faith. In Canada, most have roots in Iran, and they are worried that family and friends are facing persecution in that country. To talk about that, John Longhurst is here, our faith contributor. Good morning.
Good morning.
So just so people are on the same page here, who are the Baha'i?
Well, the Baha'i religion was founded in Persia, which is now Iran, in the 19th century by Baha'u'llah, who Baha'is believe was another messenger from God. So the other messengers would have been Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. They believe that he was too. And today there are about 5 million Baha'is in the world, and about 300,000 or so of them live in Iran. It's the largest non-Muslim minority religion in that country. And here in Canada, there's about 35,000 Baha'is. Many of them fled here from Iran as refugees after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, which initiated the persecution that they are now experiencing. And today, Baha'is can be found right across Canada, including in Winnipeg, where there is a small but very vibrant community. And as for their beliefs, well, they believe there is only one God, and this one God is the same God that is worshipped by every religion around the world, just in different ways. And they also believe in the equality of all races and all religions, in the equality between men and women, the importance of education, of serving others, the elimination of prejudice, and the importance of peace and global cooperation.
What do we know about the persecution that I mentioned that they're facing right now in Iran?
Well, Iran is ruled by a Shia Muslim theocratic clerical government, and they see the Baha'i faith as heretical because these clerics don't believe any other messengers came from God after Muhammad. And as a result, they've made life very difficult for Baha'is in Iran ever since taking power 47 years ago. According to the Baha'i International Community, which is the worldwide group that represents Baha'is around the world, thousands of Baha'is in Iran have been arrested since that time. They've been tortured and they've been imprisoned, and more than 200 have been killed. Baha'i youth are not allowed to go to university. No Baha'i is allowed to hold a government job. And many of them have had their homes, their businesses, and their property destroyed, damaged, or confiscated. And this persecution has come to the attention of human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch, which has condemned it as a crime against humanity. And Amnesty International has called on the government of Iran to cease its ruthless attacks against the Baha'is in that country.
What are Baha'is here in Canada, Canadian Baha'is, saying about the situation in Iran today?
Well, that's a question I asked Elam Ayafor. She directs government relations for Baha'is here in Canada, and her family's roots are in Iran.
As we're all aware, there's been a national crisis in Iran recently, and certainly conflict has been taking place. And during that time, the government has, as in all other times of national crisis, tried to scapegoat the Baha'is for that crisis, using hate speech in the media by increasing persecution, more arrests, home raids, etc.
So for Elam, this is a tragedy. Baha'is in Iran, she said, only want to live peacefully with their neighbors in that country, and they want to contribute to the society. But she's very worried about those who are currently in prison in Iran.
There's denial of due process. They're deprived medical care. They're held in solitary confinement. They're excluded from temporary release measures granted to other prisoners during periods of national crisis. That in one case, when the family of a Baha'i detainee sought furlough, they were told that no Baha'i prisoner will be released.
So when Ellen hears those kinds of things and says those kinds of things, she hopes that Canadians, when they hear news about Iran and the war, and it's always in the news these days, that they will keep Baha'is in mind when they hear that news, maybe think about them, maybe pray for them, maybe look for ways to speak up for them and be their voice.
What about the Canadian government? How, if anything, how have they responded?
Well, Elam told me that the Baha'i community is very grateful to the Canadian government for what it has done to stand up for Baha'is in Iran. But she hopes the government will continue to call on Iran to respect freedom of religion for Baha'is and any other minority religious group in that country.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yes, just this. It's so sad that members of any religion anywhere in the world are being persecuted for their beliefs today, whether that's Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, or Baha'i. But I'll let Elam have the final word.
The Baha'i community never wanted what was happening to it to happen to the generality of the population. That was never its desire, and it's sad to see it transpire in these days. And we're just thinking about, as we think about all peoples in the world facing challenges, injustices, and atrocities, we're saddened by them, and we're praying for them, including the Baha'is.
John, thanks for coming in with us today. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
That was John Longhurst, our faith contributor. I spoke with him yesterday after the show.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
Well, you just heard their mention of Radio Noon, which of course is the next local show after ours this morning, live from downtown Winnipeg on CBC Manitoba. I'm hosting Noon today, so I know what the call-in is, and we're looking at landmarks. I love this for a Friday heading into the long weekend. Why not? Is it the Camarno Mosquito, or maybe it's the, I always love Happy Rock with his little hat there and his gloves, dancing around in Gladstone. I always thought that's a clever one. What landmarks do you love in Manitoba, and what's your favorite story about one, whether you're traveling here in our province or elsewhere? We're going to open the phone lines and have some fun. It feels right heading into the long weekend, as I mentioned. So 6:24 a.m. is the time right now on this last day of July. It's 18 degrees. By the way, the provincial call-in begins at 12:15, so you can make a date over your lunch hour to talk with us live. Right now, the monarch butterfly population is what we're going to talk about. It's not what it used to be. There are still enough of them, though, to count. Conservation groups of all stripes will be doing exactly that over the next few days. Today kicks off a week-long international monarch monitoring blitz. They're asking you and citizen scientists to count not just the butterflies themselves, but also eggs and caterpillars. James Paget is here to talk more about it. He's a species at risk and biodiversity specialist with the Canadian Wildlife Federation. Good morning.
Good morning.
So remind us, James, why monarch numbers are so important.
Yeah, well, so the monarch butterfly is probably the most recognizable butterfly we have in Canada, maybe North America. But what maybe people don't know is that it's an endangered species here. And so the counting individuals is really important for us to get an understanding and keep a tabs on the populations and how it's doing.
Why is it endangered? What are the numbers looking like right now?
Yeah, I mean, over the long-term trends, populations have declined considerably. But this year in particular, it seems to be they've climbed a little bit, primarily because of good weather conditions in Mexico. And so we may see a few more monarchs this year in Canada, but over the long term, there's been quite a decline.
And is that because of weather conditions not suiting their needs?
Somewhat. Weather conditions, climate change, large weather events can really impact it, especially because they're such a long migrator and such a small, insect, comparably. But also a primary driver is also habitat loss. So the milkweed plant that the monarch relies on is, because it's kind of got the name, it's got weed in its name, it's not really a great fit for it doesn't bode well for the plant. It either gets removed or through our agricultural practices, we have just less habitat for the monarch.
I'm going to show you something. Okay, you ready? I know you're on Zoom so you can see me. Check this out. You might be smiling. These are wildflowers that one of my coworkers grows in her garden. So they attract all kinds of different pollinators. And she gave me a cup bouquet yesterday of these gorgeous flowers. So for radio listeners only that aren't watching on Zoom, I mean, there's zinnias in here, there's coneflowers, there's yarrow, there's all kinds of different varieties in here. This is becoming popular, though. How much is this helping? Like each and every individual that chooses to plant a garden that's good for pollinators?
Yeah, I mean, every action counts. And as you pointed out, there's a bunch of different flowers, right? So I mentioned milkweed plant, which is key for monarch. It's the only plant that the monarch can lay its eggs on. But the adults also feed on other plants. And so what's also good for monarch is good for other pollinators, which is then good for all the other species that either feed on pollinators and, the wildflowers that require that pollination service. So every action in every pollinator garden really helps.
Can you name some of those other plants that are good for monarchs and for others as well, beyond milkweed?
Yeah, I mean, well, as I said, milkweed is a primary one, but some of the ones you mentioned as well. And ideally, we're looking at native plants. I know I often see monarchs on Joe Pye weed, on coneflower, bergamot. So they can use a variety of of flowers for nectaring.
So we started by talking about this blitz. What's involved in being part of the monitoring blitz?
Yeah, so essentially we're looking for people to help count monarchs and milkweeds. You mentioned all the life stages of the adult, but we're also looking for milkweed plant because we're looking to understand the distribution of milkweed to help understand where monarchs might be. Especially with climate change, maybe we're finding these things in new areas, potentially more northern areas than they were in the past. And so this information is really important. And scientists can't be everywhere. So we're looking for people to just take part and help us during this next 10 days to track this endangered species.
How do they do that? Like, where do they log on to figure out how to do it and where to put their information in?
Yeah, people can head to monarchblitz.org, which provides the information on how to take part. But essentially, there's two key ways. One is through using the iNaturals platform, which is an app in the website that people can record wildlife sightings. You can take a photo of not just monarch, it can be any wildlife, but here we're targeting monarchs, and upload it to the app, and it automatically becomes part of the Monarch Blitz data.
Great.
The other way, if people are looking to take an extra step and do an actual count of stems and number of adults, there's the Mission Monarch Protocol, which people can fill out a form and get an actual tally of a bit more information on that too.
Really quick before we go here, scientists are tracking monarchs via Bluetooth. How does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of how AirTags work on luggage. It's similar technology, and so the tag, it's really small and it's glued to the back of the monarch adult, and it's able to get kind of real-time information of where monarchs are moving, and it's really important when we're thinking of their migration timing and routes that we can't otherwise really see where monarchs are every kind of stop of the way.
That's fascinating. So cool. Thanks very much, James. I know we talk yearly about this. Good luck with the Blitz this year. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
James Flage with us live, species at risk and biodiversity specialist with the Canadian Wildlife Federation. You're listening to CBC Manitoba's Information Radio, your morning show. I'm Marcy Marcusa with the team at the show, and we will be back with more local news and weather. More local traffic and weather after your news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's a bit of a cool start. It's 13 degrees out at the airport, 18 downtown, and that is how we're beginning the last day of July in Winnipeg. It's going to become a nearly perfect summer's day, a high of 28. Still a bit of humidity. Will feel like 33. Members of Winnipeg's Islamic community say they aren't going anywhere after an attack on a mosque. It happened Wednesday night outside the Rahma Islamic Center on Watt Street. Members were inside when they say a car drove past and fired shots into a window. A security camera later captured two suspects walking up to the mosque and breaking more windows. Kadar Ahmed is the president of the Winnipeg Islamic Center.
We are one nation. We are one people. There's no hatred in Canada, and there should be no hatred in Manitoba. We are strong in Manitoba. If you mess with a Manitoba people or Winnipeg people, you are messing with the wrong people.
Before the incidents, two people were reported to have walked by the mosque shouting racist comments. The Winnipeg Police Service Hate Crimes Unit is investigating, and police say they intend to beef up their presence in and around the Rahma Center, as well as other city mosques. Well, mosquito fogging is set to begin in several areas of Winnipeg today. The insecticide program's been mandated by the province as it responds to high levels of mosquitoes responsible for West Nile virus. The city says today's fogging will hit northern neighborhoods, including the Maples and Amber Trails, and in southern neighborhoods like Bridgewater and Linden Ridge. Spraying has also been mandated for several rural areas, including Carman, Stonewall, and Winkler. Health officials say they can't say how soon dialysis services can be restored in Dauphin. Some patients have had to travel hours after flooding on July 1st forced the regional health center to close. A virtual town hall last night provided an update on the work to restore some services. Prairie Mountain Health CEO Trina Slate says a lot of progress has been made, including the upcoming restoration of some lab services and diagnostic testing in temporary locations. However, it will be a long time before Dauphin Hospital systems can be safely brought back online.
There's been significant damage to our building and the critical infrastructure that is really the heart and lungs of this large building that was so important to all of us.
Slate says the dialysis services are expected to be restored in the coming months. However, no firm timelines are set. WestJet says flights could be canceled as early as today as flight attendants gave strike notice, the airline responding with a lockout notice. The union says key issues include unpaid work for tasks such as ground duties, and both parties insist they want a negotiated solution. So far, there is no word of any canceled flights across the country. U.S. President Donald Trump claims there is a deal to disarm all armed groups in Gaza. Trump says it was reached by the Board of Peace, set up to oversee the ceasefire. He's calling the agreement a step towards Gaza getting its own Palestinian government. The deal would also require Israel to withdraw once disarmament is complete. Ahmed Faoud Al-Khatib is a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Middle East program. He says enacting any disarmament deal will be a challenge.
Especially because the implementation is going to take hundreds of days, estimates in 200 to 300 days. We're talking about an international security force or stabilization force that needs months to be stood up, a police force for Gaza that needs months, if not an entire year.
BBC reports Hamas has agreed to disarm and that it will put out an official statement. So far, Israel has not commented. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Well, losing in the final minutes in front of a packed home crowd in Winnipeg.
Touchdown, Winnipeg! Finally, they finish the drive and take the lead.
That's in the third quarter, Tim White for Winnipeg. But it was not to be. The BC Lions came back, beating the Bombers 35-19. Another loss at home for the blue and gold. Defensive end Willie Jefferson says they've got to fix this.
This is crazy for us to play like this at home in front of our home fans and things like that. Like all the support that we getting from our fans, like the consistency of them showing up and making noise and all this stuff for us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we just got to do better when it comes to the fourth quarter.
The Bombers now head into a bye week. The next game for Winnipeg is August 14th against Ottawa. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather Wells. Well, too bad for the Bombers. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of fun pictures online, though, because it was 90s night. So let's do it, Abby. Let's do the online trend. What did you look like in the 90s, Abby?
I had, this very full haircut, and I was very meticulous with combing my hair. So I always combing my hair.
Okay, so people can't see you, but on YouTube, you're holding your hands up.
Yep.
How high was your
It was pretty
look?
high. It was pretty high.
That was a thing, man.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah.
It's like I just had that full fro, and the comb that had this fist was always in my back pocket.
Got it. Very cool. Yeah, that was a thing too.
That was a thing.
Yeah, you still see it, but
and my Walkman was always like, but I had issues with the Walkman because the headphones would affect my hairstyle.
Oh, yeah.
So I had my Walkman styled the other way.
Underneath the hair,
underneath
the back of the neck.
back.
Yeah. Did you have the yellow one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it was the coolest one. Did you keep it?
Oh, did I keep it? No, I gifted it to someone else.
You know what? We didn't keep ours either. My sister had one. We had to share it, but it was, I now wish we'd kept it.
Because I made a lot of mixtape for people back then.
For sure.
So with my Walkman in the ear and just strolling down to here and like, can I get a copy of that?
Yeah, man.
By Friday.
Carry a pencil or a pen, rewinding it, and the tape went out.
I repaired a lot of tapes also that got snipped.
Oh, yeah. You would have been a popular friend probably because of all your audio.
I was that guy, the other guy.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's get into what's happening with the regional forecast.
Well, it's a cooler start to Friday across the province as temperatures, we're seeing it hover near that seasonal norms. Plenty of sunshine in the forecast today for most of the regions. Then we see a mix of sun and clouds develop through the afternoon period. Most of the regions will be warming up into the upper 20s, but we will be seeing something as warm as what we saw the last 2 days. But look out, a few western and northern communities might just see isolated thunderstorms later in the day. They may come. Here in the Red River Valley region at this time, we're still tracking 13 at the airport, 18 in the downtown area. Expect sunshine, then we'll see that mix of sun and clouds. We warm up to 28 today. The humidity is going to be around 33, and the UV index not as high high as 8 plus yesterday. We're going to be in the range of 7. Pembina Valley region, Morden, you're sitting at 18. It's clear there. Sunny conditions your way before we see the clouds in the afternoon, also warming to 28. Brandon is at 13 degrees and clear at this time. Sunshine on its way. You see maybe a chance of afternoon showers before you get to 27. Then around the Parkland region, Dauphin and surrounding areas, clear skies, 14 right now. We will get to 28 there. There's a late day thunderstorm in the forecast for that region. Gimli, good morning. You are at 14 at this time. Cloudy skies you have, but sunshine is going to come back in a bit. Then you see a mix of sun and clouds this afternoon. Highs of 27. Across the North Central region, the path, Flim, we're looking at 13 at this time. Lots of sunshine in the forecast for you. Well, Norway House is around 14 degrees. We will see highs around 24s and 25s in that part of the province. We go far north, Thompson 6 degrees with shallow fog. Lynn Lake is at 11, mostly cloudy. Gillam it's at 13, Tudela Lake at 13, and of course at Churchill at 13 degrees. Partly cloudy skies. We'll see highs close to 25 degrees in those regions. Just a slight chance of afternoon showers or maybe some thunderstorms there. So it's more like a beautiful day to start the weekend across the regions. Winnipeg, let's just put it at 18 right now in the downtown. We get to 28 later.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
May McKillop is in to look at the commute.
Good morning. We're hearing about a lot of lights out. Areas still affected by the power outage from yesterday. So the areas where traffic standards lights are not working that I'm hearing about right now are St. James at Sargent, as well as King Edward at Notre Dame, as well heading north around Fermor and Lagimodiere, and also south on Pembina at Plaza. So those are the 4 that I've heard about today. I'm looking at the Manitoba Hydro power outage map, and there are some other areas. But if you're driving around and this is affecting you, please call us and let us know so I can add that to my list and keep letting everyone know. That number to call is 204-788-3093.
Thanks, May.
You're welcome.
All right, Phil DeMontis here with our business news at 21 minutes to 7 o'clock on CBC. Good morning to you, Phil. Oh, we're just having a challenge getting Phil back up, so we'll give that a couple more minutes. So just a reminder again, 788-3093, and also check the different areas where hydro has now been restored, and also where cleanup efforts continue around Manitoba. There's Phil. Hi, you.
I was listening to Abby talk about his hair in the 90s, and I just realized my hairstyle wasn't that different. I just had more hair.
I had less hair. I had like a shaved back up the back of my hair. I had long bangs, like at an angle, and I used to wear really dark lipstick.
Oh, that would have been cool in that kind of context.
It was,
you know?
Yeah. You have to know the 90s.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something a lot of people are worried about, Phil, please. WestJet. The flight attendants, as people know, could walk off the job as early as Sunday. It could hurt plans for a lot of people. I'm wondering from your perspective, though, how much could it hurt the overall economy?
Oh, it's a little unclear because the numbers are spotty, but it certainly wouldn't be good news, especially for the August-September travel season. The union representing WestJet's 4,400 flight attendants served notice that they could strike as early as Sunday, as you mentioned. The main issue seems to be time that the crews spend working but not getting paid for. The issue within the issue, the way I'm reading it, is the current system of compensating attendants for this time, and there appears to be one at WestJet, generally favors senior staff. The union's pushing for a different way to pay for these hours, which would be fair to all its members. But WestJet downing tools would have a major impact in Western Canada because it's got a 50% market share out in your way, Manitoba to BC. And now here's where I'm going with this. In previous testimony, WestJet executives estimated that the airline, directly and indirectly, drove about $36 billion in annual economic activity in Canada. And now that works out to be a shade under $100 million a day. Seems to be a bit high, to be honest about it, but that's the one number I found. If you look for direct costs, back in 2024, Air Canada's pilots threatened to strike. They didn't, but one estimate had a 2-week strike at that airline costing $1.4 billion. Play around with that figure, you get direct costs of a WestJet strike at about $66 million a day. One saving grace, historically, an airline stoppage in this country lasts 1 to 3 days, and then Ottawa intervenes, but back in 1987, Air Canada ground crews ran rotating strikes for 19 days, and it can get so bad, and I found this one just because of the numbers. Back in 1960, pilots at Atlanta-based Southern Airways went on strike. 27 months. I booked a flight on WestJet in a couple of weeks. Hopefully the dispute doesn't last that long.
There's a lot of people watching it. Yeah. All of a sudden, to another story here, world copper prices are actually on a bit of a tear. Why?
Yeah, of all things, a snowstorm, specifically bad weather in Chile. But remember, it's below the equator, so it's winter down there. Chile supplies about 20% of the world's copper, but snow squalls and severe rain have hurt the output in the mines in that country. So the spot price for the metal, an all-time high recently, $6.70 US a pound, up 12% since May. Canada could benefit. We supply about 2% of the world's copper, 500,000 metric tons in 2024, 50% out in BC. But only 20% of the world's production is traded on the spot market. The rest is tied up in so-called off-take agreements. So you're tied to one buyer. For example, the Copper Mountain mine in BC sells 85% of its output to Mitsubishi. Long term, though, copper prices should keep rising because of potential demand for electric vehicles and all the new technologies. But a 2024 study I found said the industry needed 6 new big mines to come online just to meet expected demand. And it takes 20 years between discovery to production. So those mines aren't coming on anytime soon, which means prices, they'll keep going up.
And finally, why is AI like leaving your teenager home alone for a weekend?
Because you're not quite sure what they're going to get up to. For your kid, it might be the liquor cabinet. For artificial intelligence, they're developing a habit of breaking into computer systems you don't want them to break into. The latest, Anthropic, said on Thursday that its AI system hacked into 3 separate organizations. Claude, its main program, wasn't supposed to do that. Here, Anthropic set up a challenge for the program, capture a flag on a different machine within its own campus. So it's kind of like an Easter egg on a video game. Instead, the program just jumped right off onto the internet, zipped around, found other computers that it could hack into and hacked into them. Anthropic's misstep is similar to what happened to OpenAI. That company said a little while ago that its program hacked into another organization with a cute named Hugging Face. In OpenAI's case, though, the program just jumped over the guardrails. They're set up to prevent this sort of hack, but kind of like your dog jumping over the fence and running away. That's more or less what happened. And this is kind of a problem. You expect growing pains with this type of technology. On the other hand, you have this vision of the Beatles all running away from the house and going off into other houses. And that's leading legislators in the U.S. to push to include some sort of a kill switch. All AI programs that would close down the operation if they broke into other computers. Like I said, you expect this, but on the other hand, you don't expect to open up your computer and find that on it.
This is like a lot of movies that are now, these are real concerns now. That's a frightening story.
Well, it's kind of, you expect they get a handle on it, that they would anticipate this kind of a problem. But yeah, it's kind of like opening up your door and there's the guy with the axe, and instead it's an AI program.
Well, it's the fact for me that AI is makes that determination. What's the best way I can do this? Even though you haven't told me to do this, the best way I can do this is to go onto the internet and figure out this quote unquote flag. That's fascinating. All right. Thanks very much, Phil. Have a great weekend.
Same to you, Marcy.
That's Phil DeMont with our business news this morning. Well, I'm Marcy Marcusa, a real human being, I promise you truly, here in downtown Winnipeg with Abby Adiyemi, May McKillop, and Darren Marash behind the glass. We're in Studio 15, looking out the window, and look at that sky. It's beautiful in downtown Winnipeg this morning. Light blue, it's clear, the sun is coming up, and we're going to have a nice summer day. It's even a bit cool, 13 if you're at the airport. In downtown Winnipeg right now, it's 18 degrees. Our high today will be 28. With Humidex, it'll feel like 33. So hot for the rest of the day, of course, but not the kind of oppressive heat that we have had. It should be pretty nice. Well, next, let's have a bit of music. Winnipeg's Leaf Rapids, blending roots music with thoughtful songwriting and warm melodies. You'll have to wait for them to play at home until Toulon and the Pumpkin Fest in September. But in the meantime, this is Starling to a Starling.
I'm tethered to you like a starling to a starling. Think I'm hypnomagnetized. The dark is looming. Won't you dose-do me, darling? Dance me through the twilight.
Leaf Rapids. I really hope you're driving somewhere past a field on this beautiful morning, getting ready to head out on a road trip, and you have this turned up, because that's what it feels like for me. I always think Carrie Latimer's voice just sounds like sweet, clean sugar somehow too, right? So pretty and so effortless. That is Leaf Rapids from Winnipeg. Starling to a Starling. If you're looking to support their music, you can find it online. It is 10 to 7 right now on 89.3 FM. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Next on the show, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's not keen on using Canadian energy exports as a bargaining chip with the United States. Now, that's despite some premiers arguing that they're ready for Canada to retaliate and that oil, gas, and electricity are our best leverage.
We have many exports and commodities. One of the biggest commodities, arguably the best, is trust. People trust us. And so when you're a supplier of a key commodity, key service, you got to think really hard about not supplying. I don't see the value of doing. I mean, I can understand conceptually, but I don't see the value of it.
So while the U.S. threatens a new wave of tariffs on Canada, what's left in the government's arsenal if we're not going to pull the plug on energy? To talk about it, we have reached Jitan De Silva. She's a former Alberta representative to the United States during the first Trump administration, and she's currently executive director of Peter Lougheed School of Politics and Democracy at the University of Alberta. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what is left? What's the answer to the question I posed after the Prime Minister saying he doesn't want to go in this direction?
Well, I think we have to take a deep breath, take a step back and think about what's actually in our strategic interests. You know, acting out of anger might feel good in the moment, but withholding energy exports would have a tremendous impact on the Canadian economy. So instead, I think we need to reframe the relationship. Americans don't typically respond well to threats. So instead, let's try to encourage them to come back to the table by demonstrating how much stronger our Canadian imports make their economy.
Why do you think that Carney is taking energy off the table so publicly?
Well, a couple of reasons. Obviously, there's domestic impacts here in Alberta with our separation referendum looming in October, but also, you know, President Trump has demonstrated that he is vindictive. He is perfectly ready to go after people and countries that don't agree with him. And so, you know, the risk of retaliation from the Americans is real. And if we want to get back to the negotiating table, starting with a threat's probably not the way to do it. So demonstrating that we understand the importance of energy to our mutual economies is probably a way to get back and try to negotiate a CUSMA that works for both countries.
Has he boxed himself in by being so definitive about it, do you think, the Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, we have to understand this is a highly fluid situation, right? I mean, we've seen everything in this saga since President Trump took office, but I think it is an important signal. We have to keep in mind that not only are we looking to, resolve the CUSMA review, but we're also made a commitment at the G7 to try and export our energy to other countries and around the world. And the Prime Minister is right that when you start to threaten to take away such a key commodity like that, it makes it harder to open other markets, and having other markets to sell our goods to actually increases our power at the negotiating table with the United States. So I think it's actually quite a strategic move.
What is our other leverage, though? Concretely, what do we have?
Well, again, we have to keep in mind, is retaliating in our own strategic interests? I mean, if we want to withhold something, if we get to that point where we need to press the nuclear button, you could, with apologies to my friends in Saskatchewan, look at a commodity like potash, where you actually have the infrastructure to sell it to other places, and it's critically important to American farmers who are a key voting base for the president. But I really think the way to success in this scenario is to convince the Americans that it's to their interest to have a strong trading relationship with Canada, that our inputs to their economy make their economy stronger, rather than threatening to withhold things that are so crucial.
What are you watching for specifically in the lead up to mid-August? August 19th is the tariff deadline.
Well, in my experience, we're way more successful when Americans carry the message to the White House. I'm waiting to see if American industry leaders or elected officials start to speak up, either publicly or privately, to put pressure on the White House and say, you know, we've got this trading relationship that has worked really well for our economy, and let's make sure it continues to work. So let's get back to the table with Canada and reach an agreement that is mutually beneficial.
In meantime, then we have Dominic LeBlanc, the minister in charge of the file, who's been in Washington this week. Have you heard or seen anything that's coming out of that trip to indicate progress?
I think we need to keep in mind that with high-profile negotiations like this, there is a high degree of theater involved. So the fact that Minister LeBlanc, our chief negotiator, made the trip to Washington demonstrates to Canadians that the federal government is serious about getting back to the table and resolving these issues. It also shows Americans that we're willing to make the trip to Washington to meet with them on their home turf. And then it also gives them the opportunity to have some in-person, behind closed doors conversations with other key players in this conversation. And so I have no doubt that progress is happening behind the scenes, even if we aren't hearing about it in real time.
All right, we'll leave it there, Jiten. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. That's Jiten De Silva with us live, Executive Director of the Peter Lougheed School of Politics and Democracy over at the University of Alberta. She was in Calgary this morning.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket.
Well, yesterday in the newsroom, Matt Humphrey was working on a story about the storm and the aftermath in Manitoba and the weather and what can happen, the different things that can contribute. And all of a sudden, Matt wrote a story for our news department that included the term corn sweat. And everyone went crazy. What's corn sweat? What is that? How does it contribute to things? And maybe you've heard of this before, but maybe you haven't. A lot of us hadn't. So we are going to be talking about that. It's actually like a contributing factor. It is rather a contributing factor to a lot of our storm activity. So we're going to talk to a researcher about the phenomenon. It's not just corn, in case you're wondering. It's other crops too, but corn's a big one. So corn sweat. What's up with that? That's coming up in the next hour. Also, in the next hour of the show, we turn our attention to an absolutely heartbreaking story that captured the attention of the country. We're talking about the 11-year-old little boy who lives with autism. He was missing in Calgary, people looking for him, and almost 2 weeks after he disappeared, he was found, and and he's not alive. So in the aftermath of this, as people continue to grieve for this little boy, it is also raising some awareness nationally about alert systems when a vulnerable child goes missing. We're going to talk here to the president of Autism Manitoba about what changes she would like to see around alert systems, and in the aftermath of this case, how we move forward as well. So stay tuned. That's coming up right after 7 o'clock. In Winnipeg right now, it is 18. Brandon's clear, 14. Thompson cool. It's 6 degrees. It's shallow fog up in Thompson right now. We're all going to be around the mid-20s later in the day. In traffic, we still have lights out at Pembina and Plaza, also St. James and Sargent, and King Edward and Notre Dame. So 788-3093 to update your commute. Heather Wells is here now, 3 minutes to 7 o'clock with other local headlines.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg imam says his members are scared after their mosque was damaged. Winnipeg police are investigating the incident on Wednesday night as a potential hate crime. The Rahma Islamic Center says bullets were fired into their building on Watt Street, adding security video captured 2 people walking up, breaking more windows. The mosque's imam says he does have hope, though, after the neighborhood came out to support them. Bit of good news for people in the Dauphin area who've been without a hospital for the past month. Heavy flooding on July 1st forced the closure of the Dauphin Regional Health Centre, and while it may be closed for months to come, Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera now says a provincial building in Dauphin will soon house some temporary lab services. We'll hear the latest in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In addition to the list I just mentioned where lights are out to treat as a 4-way stop, we have Fermor and Lagimodiere as well. So big intersections this morning, still in the aftermath of the storm. Take it easy out there, especially remember that on the highways today, it's likely to be extra busy. So just be careful. It's Friday before a long weekend. Often people take the day off and they head out. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and stay with us. More local programming after World Report at 7. It's 1 minute to.
On the Current, boxes and boxes and boxes. Why did we keep all that stuff? I just don't know.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. So many Canadians are drowning in stuff, items accumulated over a lifetime by their parents or grandparents that they now don't know what to do with. How this emotional issue is becoming big business, coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Sheehan Desjardins. The world is watching to see what happens next in Gaza. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that a deal has been reached to disarm Hamas. He says the militant group has agreed to a phased disarmament under a transitional administration and international oversight. The deal would also require Israel to withdraw from the Gaza Strip once disarmament is complete. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me from Washington. Willie, break down what we know about this proposed deal.
U.S. President Donald Trump is calling this a, quote, monumental step in a process that has taken months to get to. Trump says that Hamas has agreed to complete disarmament. The U.S. president saying it will take place in phases and that as disarmament is completed, Israeli forces will withdraw from Gaza. And an international stabilization force will work with a newly created Palestinian police force to take responsibility for the enclave. Several media outlets are reporting that under the agreement, Hamas's heavy weapons will be inventoried and then stored under Palestinian supervision, despite a ceasefire in place between Israel and Hamas since October 2025. The two sides have continued to engage in sporadic fighting. According to the UN, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since then.
And what can we expect next?
So there are lots of questions still to be worked out, chief among them whether Israel will agree to this plan. So far, they have yet to respond, but just before Trump announced the agreement, the Israeli Prime Minister's office attempted to shut down the notion that a deal was close by saying it did not meet its requirements. A senior U.S. official who briefed reporters on the agreement said the U.S. was confident Israel would adhere to it, and if they don't, President Trump will be, quote, very disappointed. Hamas has yet to officially comment on the agreement as well. Every move forward is likely to be met with extreme distrust from both sides.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
Major American oil companies are reporting massive profits, fueled by rising global energy prices tied to ongoing military conflict with Iran. ExxonMobil doubled its second quarter earnings to over $14 billion, while Chevron nearly quadrupled its profits to $12 billion. The surging earnings come as shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz drive up fuel costs for consumers worldwide, sparking fresh calls from U.S. lawmakers for a windfall tax on big energy producers. A senior advisor to FIFA President Gianni Infantino has resigned in protest. Carlos Cordio stepped down after FIFA unveiled a controversial proposal to sell a private equity stake in the World Cup. The decision comes amid growing pushback from European football's governing body, along with CONCACAF and the Asian Football Confederation. For more on this, CBC's Darren McCaffrey is joining us here in the studio. So Darren, walk us through what triggered this resignation.
Well, it seems that Mr. Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, is in a little bit of trouble this morning, not least of all because his most senior advisor has resigned, pulling no punches in a statement about FIFA's proposals to try and change the World Cup. According to Carlos Cordeiro, he says that he did not agree with this deal, and he said that the current plan was a bad deal for FIFA's members, a bad deal for football, and a bad deal for the long-term future of the game. And this all comes as different football confederations around the world have also objected to this plan. We've heard from the Asian Football Confederation overnight saying that they think this risks undermining the unity and the universal character of the competition, and that's in addition to UEFA in Europe and to the North American Confederation as well, all saying that they're not happy with these plans.
What is this all about?
Well, it's really about changing the game. The World Cup, of course, very successfully held here in Canada and North America, is the world's most popular competition. And I think FIFA essentially wants to make more money from it, if I'm frank. Mr. Infantino's plan was to raise around $20 billion through private investment by selling equity into the competition. And in return, the member associations would get millions of dollars for each individual country. Now, FIFA said that the backlash in part has been prompted by erroneous reporting from the media. They insist that no one is trying to sell football, and they would never entertain that idea. I think in part this is definitely a backlash against this plan, but I think also it's a bit of a backlash against Mr. Infantino himself, who's not popular with many football confederations, and this will definitely raise questions about his viability as remaining as FIFA's president.
That's CBC's Darren McCaffrey joining us here in Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you.
Search teams in northwestern Pakistan have recovered 4 bodies following an avalanche on Broad Peak Mountain. 10 mountaineers remain missing, including expedition leader Nirmal Nims Persia. He is an experienced Nepalese-born climber and former member of the British Special Forces. Persia is best known for scaling all of Earth's 14 8,000-meter peaks in just 6 months. Tens of thousands of Canadian air travelers are hoping their long weekend plans do not stall due to impending job action. Flight attendants with WestJet are preparing to walk off the job on Sunday if they cannot reach a deal with the airline over pay and working conditions. CBC's Angie Seth joins me in studio with the latest. Now, Angie, where do negotiations stand right now?
So currently both WestJet and the union are at the bargaining table, but according to a representative for the union, the two sides are still far apart on some key issues, like unpaid work for ground duties is a big sticking point. But despite that, WestJet and its flight attendants have signed off on a plan to wind down operations. An internal note obtained by CBC News says this isn't a sign things are escalating or have escalated at the negotiation table, but it is about getting flights and employees home if there is a strike or lockout. Both sides say they are committed to getting to a deal. Talks continue. Deadline to reach that deal is August 2nd at 12:01 a.m.
All right, so when can passengers expect to begin feeling this?
Well, they're concerned, certainly, and experts are telling us, given the situation, to expect some flights to be canceled as early as today, and that would start with international flights. Now, WestJet says it will let customers know in advance of any flight cancellations or changes. So far, WestJet's travel advisory page does not mention any cancellations yet, so we're keeping a close eye on that. Passengers with flights booked between July 30th and August 4th, they'll be able to make a one-time change or cancel with no fee. And if delays or cancellations occur, passengers will be refunded or get a travel credit depending on the type of flight that they've booked. So in addition to this, Air Canada posted on its website that it'll be working with WestJet to accommodate passengers in the event of a travel disruption. Both Calgary and Vancouver airports have indicated they're working with airport operations, including WestJet, to help minimize any travel disruptions by increasing staff and support for passengers. So best for anyone flying WestJet right now is to keep your eye on your inbox for any updates from WestJet. And of course, Jan, to regularly check your flight status if you're flying with the company as well.
Angie, thank you for this.
You're welcome.
CBC's Angie Seth in studio. And finally, the debate surrounding transgender athletes in women's sports is once again making headlines in the U.S. It stems from comments made by Indiana Fever star Sophie Cunningham. Reporter Steve Futterman has details from Los Angeles.
Sophie Cunningham is one of the most recognizable stars in the WNBA.
Off to Cunningham, a deep three.
But her comments about whether transgender women should be allowed to take part in women's sports has renewed the debate. Cunningham has been vocal in her belief that they should not.
I think it's kind of common sense. I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport.
Those remarks last week led to a confrontation on Tuesday in Seattle. Cunningham's team, the Indiana Fever, was playing the Seattle Storm. 2 teenage girls at the game brought signs supporting Cunningham.
We were just sitting there with our signs that said, like, we love Sophie.
That's when one of the Seattle Storm's owners, Celeste Keaton, angrily confronted them.
Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. She's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And then she told us that we were effing insane.
The league fined and suspended Keaton 5 games. The team has denounced her comments. Seattle head coach Sonia Rahman.
We always want to be an area where people feel welcome.
Some have raised questions about whether this is in fact a major problem. There are no transgender women playing either women's college basketball or in the WNBA. This latest debate, though, has reignited the issue, and many political observers predict it will be a major talking point by Republicans in the upcoming U.S. midterm elections. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Sheehan Deschaldin.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. You are here with us on CBC on this last day of July on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app or YouTube. Wherever you've joined us, thanks for joining us this morning, especially since it's a bit of a quieter morning out there. I think a lot of people taking the day off maybe to stretch that long weekend coming up. Well, this hour on the program, we're going to be talking about a bit of a phenomenon that's been related to our stormy weather. Corn, it's more than just a tasty summer side dish. It can also play a role in how humid our weather gets. Coming up, we're going to hear more from a McGill University professor about corn sweat. I'd never heard of it either. Stay tuned. In addition, this hour on the program, to a serious story to begin. The National Autism Network right now is calling for an update to alert systems for missing vulnerable people. This is after the death of that little Calgary boy. The president of Autism Manitoba will join us to share her thoughts. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She's here with other stories developing in our news center and your headlines from our province.
Good morning. Well, members of Winnipeg's Islamic community are shaken after an attack on a mosque. It happened Wednesday night outside the Rahma Islamic Center on Watt Street. Members were inside when they say a car drove past firing shots into a window. A security camera later captured 2 suspects walking up to the mosque, breaking more windows. The center's imam says he has hope because the neighborhood came together to stand with them. The Prime Minister also is weighing in, saying these kind of violent acts have no place in Canada. So we'll hear more about this. And taking a bite out of the biters, mosquito fogging is set to begin in several areas across Winnipeg today after the province mandated the measure over high levels of the mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
I've got this giant bouquet of wildflowers in the studio. Here, you can pass to me, May. And I keep putting it in front of the cameras. So every time we have a guest, I have to move it over because their head is covered by wildflowers, which, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, is beautiful, but not good for seeing the people we want to talk to. So I'll slide this over in a second here. I'm just hugging it right now because it's so pretty. Abby, wildflowers, people, everyone I think is going to think today is pretty when it comes to what you have to say about the weather.
It will be pretty and a comfortable day across the province. So looking back at the last 2-3 days compared to today and into the weekend, it will be cooler and more comfortable across. But I'll tell you, we're enjoying some clear starts across the province. Lots of sunshine to go around with temperatures returning closer to seasonal levels across board. Here in the Red River Valley region, we're starting at 15 and 19 degrees depending on where you are in the city. Lots of sunshine outside. The sunshine continues this morning before we see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds develop this afternoon. The highs for the city will get to 28, but the feeling will feel about 33 degrees with the humidex factored in. And across the southern regions, similar conditions, 13s to 19s. We're seeing mostly sunny conditions before those clouds will roll in the afternoon, and a slim chance of showers in some areas with highs close to 28. But far north, we're looking at temperatures between 6 and 14 degrees, and some areas have foggy conditions, but lots of sunshine across board today. So it's a pleasant one across the province. Winnipeg right now, 19 of the Forks. Sunshine will warm up to 28 later.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
May McKillop is in to talk about traffic issues, and a number of them are because lights are out, right?
Mainly what I'm hearing about so far on the commuter commuter line is traffic lights being out due to the storm that happened yesterday. So the areas that I'm hearing about are St. James at Sargent, as well as King Edward at Notre Dame, and Fermor and La Jamodiere, as well as Pembina and Plaza. So just a reminder to treat those traffic lights out as a four-way stop and be patient with your fellow commuters as you all get along this morning. If you're wanting to check to see your area, you can check the Manitoba Hydro power outage map before you travel today. Also, you can give me a call and pass that message along, and I will share that with your fellow commuters. So that number to call is 788-304-3093.
Well, what a sad story this next story was as the country watched. It galvanized people in Alberta. It broke hearts across Canada. Searchers in Calgary, as you have likely heard by now, believe they have found Parker, an 11-year-old boy with autism who was nonverbal and went missing. He went missing July 16th. He disappeared from his day home. His remains were found in a web of water pipes underneath the city of Calgary. As I mentioned, the National Autism Network is calling now for an update to alert systems for missing vulnerable people. They say emergency alert systems and first responder training need to change for vulnerable children and their families. Dimitra Hadjiakos is here with us, and Hadjiakos rather. She's president of Autism Manitoba and is also a mother to an adult child with autism. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I know how much this broke my heart, given that you're a mom and, to a child who lived with autism, now an adult. What were you thinking watching this story?
It's devastating. It just absolutely devastating. And to see the images of him Parker walking on the street with no shirt on, wearing large ear defenders. Yeah. And I don't think I can get that image out of my mind. No.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about this because out of the devastation comes trying to make sure somehow this doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. So you heard me mentioning the National Autism Network, and they're saying that things need to change. First responder training and emergency alert systems. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. I think both are something that we need to look at for sure. I was talking to quite a few people yesterday, with colleagues and friends and board members from Autism Manitoba, parents of children with special needs, and, getting all sorts of different feedback of how the message could get out quicker and how we can educate the public what to do when we encounter a child who clearly looks like they have wandered. And, I was thinking about that old commercial, you'll remember, mm-hmm. right? McLuhan's The Medium is the Message. Mm-hmm, some people said feedback, some people said Facebook, other people said, alerts. I know lots of people are talking about a new kind of alert called an indigo alert that will be specific to vulnerable people and children with special needs. The conversation, everything that I'm hearing is good. How do we get the message out quickly? Yeah. How do we educate the public what to do? Leanne Van Amstel, a board member at Autism Manitoba, who's also a parent of an adult child with autism, she said it's really important that people understand that you might be saying hello and the child doesn't respond to you, just keeps walking. That's if you have a feeling inside of you that doesn't look right, phone 911. If you see something, do something. He really took a very, very long walk, and I believe it was 200 and something CCTV footage was captured, right? So we just really do need to educate the public. If you see a young child wandering, what do? You phone 911.
You're talking about getting the message out, so the different methods and such that could be developed, and then also education. So when it comes to educating people, what factors might be different or maybe misunderstood about when it comes to a missing child who is vulnerable, maybe in a way that Parker was, or rather neurodivergent in the way that Parker was?
Yeah, so we do want to just stand and watch for a second, right? So you'll see a lot of teachers doing this in the mall. I can't stop myself from doing it if I see a child sort of, walking alone, and I'll just kind of stand a little bit, and then you see the adult come beside. So just observe there for a minute, and then if it clearly looks like the child is just walking somewhere alone, isn't responding to hi, can I help you? Are you lost? And the child continues to walk. I wouldn't lay hands on the child or approach the child, get in the child's space, but I would definitely phone 911. This is an emergency. We have a child who's wandering, and somebody needs to come and support. And I would stay nearby, right?
We have conversations about, and I hope this is an okay thing to compare, but we have a lot of conversations on the air about, elderly people who live with dementia, and alerts for people who may not, understand their surroundings or even visibly look like there's a problem because they just have sort of, their mind is somewhere else. They've gone missing for a reason, right? They're lost. I wonder whether or not, as a parent as well as somebody who raised a child living with autism, and then I appreciate there's a spectrum, but I do wonder whether or not there's people, what do parents themselves do even to keep track of children? Like I see parents with apps, right, checking their kids' whereabouts. Are there bracelets that one could wear? Like what are the other things that could be done just at that level?
Yeah, like when my son's 22 now, so when he was younger, like we didn't have things like those what are they called, the
AirTag things?
Yes, the AirTags. Thank you. There's people are making places for those in shoes now for elderly people and for children. If you can attach an AirTag somewhere to your child, that would be a really good idea. Like if there was a pocket or a loop, a belt loop to be able to do that. That's a great idea. If the child has a phone, it's find my phone, I believe is what it's called. Like any sort of way that you can know where your child is at. I think this is where technology is good. What's that extra stress when you're a parent of a child with autism like? Oh, like we don't sleep. Like it's for real. I remember when my son was younger, like we had bolts at the top of the doors. He had like a special seatbelt. Like we were worried that he would open the car door and fly out while we were driving. He had a life jacket on at all times because we had a pool in the back of the house. We drywalled up a staircase because we were worried what might happen there. So just hearing the story of this boy who he was in a day home, and Winnipeg people might not understand what that is, but it's some provinces call home daycares day homes. So he was in a home daycare setting, and he somehow walked out that door and through the lawn and down the street, and anything that we can do to keep our kids safe in day homes, childcare centers, schools, big chimes on doors, so that when the door opens, we hear the big chime. Anything. This is where technology is good. More is better. And anything we can do to get the message out, anything we can do to educate the public, anything we can put in place in our homes and centers that can keep our kids safe, because it's all of our responsibility. And Calgary showed that. Like they really stepped up, and at a time where people are there's good discussions about the police, like the Calgary police like really did an amazing job. The community did an amazing job. I spoke to a friend out there. Her whole family was involved in the search. And so as soon as they got the message, the community knew what to do.
Would it make, how much of a difference is it there's something specific for maybe a child that's gone, there's alerts for children that go missing, there's alerts for elderly people, all kinds of different alerts. But how much of a difference would it make? Is it important to have a specific alert if a child is neurodivergent?
Yeah, so it's funny about the alerts. Like, I think this idea of what kind of alert it is and what the alert is called, I think we need to realize that a lot of people don't get these alerts, right? So my dad, for instance, who's in his 80s and he's walking the community probably right now with my dogs, he doesn't have a cell phone, right? But he's going to listen to this later. He'll watch the news later. Like it's putting that message out there for lots of us are working. We have our cell phones off during the day. Like we might not see that alert. So,
it's being mindful of where those alerts go, as well as it is the National Society calling for a specific alert, the Indigo. Yeah.
It's only going to reach a certain amount of people. So I do believe that we do need to cast a broader net. Like, so it should be something specific. It's a message that's put out from the police, preferably, and it's just mass produced in the media and all sorts of different mediums so that it can be reached. My husband's village in Greece still has announcements. They have like
big PA announcements.
Yes. Right?
That's interesting.
And so, however we can get that message out to everyone to open their door and to look outside, the community will know what to do.
Thank you very much for coming in. And as I said, just a terrible story. Oh, I'm just losing my voice there for a moment. I apologize. Thank you very much for weighing in.
Yeah, and my thoughts and prayers go out to Parker's family and the Calgary community. And thanks so much for having me today.
Dimitra Hadjidiakos weighing in this morning. She's the president of Autism Manitoba, also a mom herself to an adult child living with autism. If you want to read more about Parker, the search for him, and ultimately finding him, you can go to cbc.ca/Calgary. It's 7:26 a.m. It is time for morning sports. And Scott Regehr is here. Good morning.
Marcy.
So the Bombers got outrun last night, ultimately outscored by the BC Lions right at the end.
Yeah, tough to say which BC player was more impressive with the ball in his hands last night. Running back Xander Horvath rushed for 3 touchdowns while amassing close to 200 yards. Quarterback Caden Salter, in his first CFL start, scampered for another 160 yards, which set a new Lions franchise record for a quarterback. The Bombers also set a new franchise mark for most rushing yards allowed in a single game, and Coach Mike O'Shea was asked how that happened.
Yeah, those big runs, especially near the end, we're just not where we're supposed to be. And combination, I imagine, of guys being tired near the end and also trying too hard, which is a bad combination. As soon as you get tired, you stop communicating, stop thinking, and start missing and start, squeezing the stick too hard, trying to make the stop instead of just make the play.
While BC's running game was the story of this contest, the outcome was in doubt until quite late. The Bombers, who got 107 rushing yards of their own through Brady Oliveira, actually led this game going into the fourth quarter. But then, as they say, the wheels fell off the bus. That bus is going to be parked for a while, by the way, because the Bombers are on a bye. So I'll have lots of time to think about this disappointing ending. The record sits at 4-4.
All right, soccer now. FIFA's facing a major backlash for its plans to privatize future World Cups.
Wow. Europe's governing body, UEFA, Marcy, says it's going to boycott all FIFA events going forward, including the World Cup, if Gianni Infantino pushes through his proposals to sell parts of it off to U.S.-based private investors. In a statement issued on behalf of its 55 member nations, UEFA says the World Cup is not for sale. Laura McAllister is a vice president with UEFA.
This was an historic moment for football. We've certainly issued very powerful statements expressing our opposition to the proposal this week, but it came to the moment where we really had to be on the right side of history, and we were prepared to do whatever it takes to stop a really catastrophic intervention by FIFA in our game.
And these aren't just UEFA's feeling on the matter. The governing bodies for Asia as well as for North America have also rejected FIFA's plans to privatize. Now, the next FIFA event, Marcy, that could be targeted by the threatened European boycott is happening within weeks, the Women's Under-20 World Cup to be held in Poland in September. But it seems now that a majority of FIFA's members, 211 of them, are opposed to future privatization. So what does this mean for Infantino's future as president? A lot of people upset with Gianni Infantino over this, including his senior advisor and right-hand man, Carlos Cordero, who resigned just over an hour ago from his position. So we'll have to continue to monitor this story. There could be other movement in terms of big positions. Yeah.
And finally, Canada, heading into the closing weekend now, the Commonwealth Games in fine form, Scott.
Yeah, in third place in the overall standings. A lot of folks watching Damian Warner this morning, the great decathlete. He won gold at the Tokyo Olympics. He's in first place right now by 3 points over a competitor from India. Remember, decathlon scores are scored in the thousands, so a 3-point lead is next to nothing. They're doing the pole vault right now. This is his bogey event, Damian Warner. It's the main reason he didn't defend his Olympic gold in Paris, and CBC is live streaming it all very dramatic.
I'm not watching, you're watching. I'm doing a radio show. One eye on there. Okay, thanks very much, Scott. Appreciate you.
Have a good weekend.
That is Scott Regehr with Morning Sports Live on CBC. Still ahead, corn sweat. What is it? How does it contribute to storms in Manitoba? Yep, I said corn sweat. Stay tuned. That's after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. It is 19 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful day. We're wrapping up July just slightly above normal today, a high of 28 with a mix of sun and clouds. The humidity is still there. You'll feel it, making you feel like 33 this afternoon. Members of Winnipeg's Islamic community are shaken after an attack on a mosque. It happened Wednesday night outside the Rahma Islamic Center on Watt Street. Members were inside when they say a car drove past and fired shots into a window. A security camera later captured two suspects walking up to the mosque and breaking more windows. Faisal Adam is the center's imam and executive director.
But the hope is when you see at late night the neighborhood come from home and they stood with us outside, that gives me a hope that we Manitobans, Winnipeggers can stand together and have positive impact in our community.
Now, before the incidents, two people were reported to have walked by the mosque shouting racist comments. The Winnipeg Police Service Hate Crimes Unit is investigating, and police say they intend to beef up their presence in and around the Rahma Center as well as other city mosques. Now, the Prime Minister is weighing in on this attack. Mark Carney says he is deeply disturbed by what happened. Carney says this violent act of Islamophobia is appalling and has no place in Canada. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. Well, mosquito fogging is set to begin in several areas across Winnipeg today. The insecticide program has been mandated by the province as it responds to the high levels of mosquitoes that can infect people with West Nile virus. The city says today's fogging will hit northern neighborhoods, including the Maples and Amber Trails. In the southern neighborhoods, places like Bridgewater and Linden Ridge. Spraying has also been mandated for several rural areas, including Carman, Stonewall, and Winkler. A bit of good news for people in the Dauphin area who have been without a hospital for the past month. Heavy flooding on July 1st forced the closure of the Dauphin Regional Health Centre. It is expected to remain closed for months while cleanup continues. A virtual town hall by health officials last night provided an update on work to restore some services. Health Minister Uzoma Eseguera says the provincial building in Dauphin will soon house temporary lab services, including blood work, EKGs, and X-rays.
We will have those lab services established in Dauphin by the end of next week, which is a really, really aggressive timeline. But we know that we need to meet the moment and move these timelines as quickly as we can so that your providers can do what they do best, and that's take care of Manitobans.
Asaguera says the priority is to restore the equivalent level of care services that existed in Dauphin before the hospital closed. WestJet says flights could be canceled as early as today as flight attendants give strike notice. The airline responding with a lockout notice. The union says key issues include unpaid work for tasks like ground duties, and both parties insist they want a negotiated solution. So far, there is no word of any canceled flights across the country. U.S. President Donald Trump claims there is a deal to disarm all armed groups in Gaza. Trump says it was reached by the Board of Peace set up to oversee the ceasefire. He is calling the agreement a step towards Gaza getting its own Palestinian government. The deal would also require Israel to withdraw once disarmament is complete. Ahmed Faoud Al-Khatib is a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Middle East program, and he says enacting any disarmament deal will be a challenge.
Especially because the implementation is going to take hundreds of days, estimates in 200 to 300 days. We're talking about an international security force or stabilization force that needs months to be stood up. A police force for Gaza that needs months, if not an entire year.
The BBC reports Hamas has agreed to disarm and it will put out an official statement. Israel has so far not commented. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Losing in front of a packed home crowd again.
Tim White, touchdown, Winnipeg! Finally, they finish a drive and take the lead.
One of the bright moments last night, Tim White for Winnipeg in the third quarter there, but it was not to be. The BC Lions come back with just 6 minutes left to play, and the final score, the Lions 35, the Bombers 19. Winnipeg's record now, 4 wins, 4 losses. Head coach Mike O'Shea says the fans deserve better.
I mean, our fans are unbelievable. They are so loud, passionate, educated. I always say educated. They know when to do what, right? Or what to do when. We're just not where we're supposed to be.
The Bombers now have a week off to think about it. Next game, August 14th against Ottawa. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, Heather, it's your turn. Abby played last night at the Bomber game. It was 90s night. And you've seen this on socials likely. So, Mom, what were you like in the 90s? You're not my mom, but that's the question everybody asks, right?
You know what? In the 90s, I was a mom.
Yeah. How many kids? Remind us.
I had 4 by then. That was where I stopped.
36 years ago. Can you imagine? 1990 was that long ago already.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells from our news department. Okay, let's get into, speaking of Abby, let's get into what he has to say about our regional forecast heading into the long weekend.
Yeah, most of the region starting with lots of sunshine as we see outside. You need to pull the blinds at some point. We will see a mix of sun and clouds as we get deep into the day. The southern regions really warming near just the seasonal levels with highs in the upper 20s. We won't be crawling into those 30s we saw the last 3-4 days. Just the humidity, you might notice that it's going to make it feel warmer. Here in the Red River Valley region, the city is at 19 at the Forks and 15 at the airport. Sunshine continues this morning before we see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds sometime this afternoon. The high will be around 28 and the humidex will be close to 33 today. In the Pembina Valley region, Morden is at 19 with sunshine. Brandon 13, sunshine. Dauphin 14, Gimli 16. All the regions seeing sunshine this morning with highs between 27 and 28. Now we go to the north central part. The Power Flin Flon hovering around 14 degrees at this time. Also seeing a mix of sun and clouds. There's a slim chance of showers in the forecast. Highs will be near 25. Norway House 14. Some morning clouds rolling in. That should clear. You get to 24. While for Thompson, we still have the shallow fog there. That's the cool spot. 6 degrees at this time. Lynn Lake is at 13. Gillam 13. Tudula Lake 14. And Churchill 14. All the regions seeing mostly to partly cloudy skies. Highs close to 25 for the region today. And a chance of showers and maybe some thunderstorms in some areas. But across board, it's a cooler and beautiful day across the province with the sunshine returning to many areas today. Winnipeg, we are warming up to 28 later.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
May McKillopson now with our Friday look at the commute.
Good morning. I'm hearing mostly just about traffic lights that are out today due to the power outage. The areas that I'm hearing about still affected are St. James at Sargent, King Edward at Notre Dame, Fermor and La Jamodiere, as well as Pembina and Plaza. I'm sure that there's other areas in the city, but those are what I've gotten calls about and what I see on the Manitoba Hydro power outage map. Just a reminder to treat those traffic lights as a four-way stop if the lights are flashing or are just out. Any other areas that I didn't mention or anything going on along your commute, give me a call and I'll pass that message along. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, May. Next on the show, 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. And as you know, cleanup is continuing. I drove past branches still down all over the place this morning on my drive, all over parts of Winnipeg and across southern Manitoba, following that severe thunderstorm overnight on Wednesday. Now, in parts of our province, wind speeds reached over 100 kilometers per hour. At the airport, wind speeds were 91 kilometers an hour in Winnipeg. And CBC yesterday talked to Environment Canada meteorologist Terry Lang, who said that a number of factors came together to create the storm.
The heat and, of course, the humidity. The crops are full growth right now, giving off a tremendous amount of moisture. We call it evapotranspiration. Farmers would call it like corn sweat. So that is adding to the atmosphere. And then you just need those things that happen in the upper atmosphere to come together, and you've got yourself all the ingredients for severe weather.
Okay. So did you pause there when Lang said corn sweat? How common is corn sweating, and how is it that corn is sweating? Let's talk about this, and how is that helping to cause thunderstorms? Robert Faber is with us via Zoom. He's an assistant professor at McGill University's Department of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. So obviously what corn sweat can contribute to is no fun, but learning about this is kind of fun, and it's cool too, and it's got a neat term, of course, so we like it. But what actually is it? What's happening with the crop?
Yeah, so in the interview there, she said the words evapotranspiration. So this is a combination of two things, evaporation and transpiration. So I'll just briefly mention the evaporation part first. So probably you or your listeners have on some day put outside a cup of water, and over time, it's a really hot day, you'll see the kind of like water level in the cup goes down. And that's because some of that water is turning into vapor and going into the atmosphere above it. So if you have a puddle on the ground, for instance, that'll kind of dry over the course of the day, and all that water goes into the atmosphere above it. So this is one way that water can get from the surface up into the atmosphere, is if you have any kind of exposed water on the surface, it'll kind of dry and go up into the atmosphere. Now, the second way is that if you have a plant that's on top of the land, that plant has roots that go deep into the earth, and those roots will basically collect water from the soil all around it. But if you've ever broken off part of a plant and looked inside, it's not like it just explodes like a water balloon full of water or something, right? All that water has to go somewhere. And so internally, what the plant is doing is taking all that water up from the soil around it, pushing it through the plant and going up to the top, usually up into the leaves or the exposed part on top. And then something called transpiration happens, where the plant basically pushes water to the edge of its pores, and then from there, the water can then evaporate back into the atmosphere. And we call this transpiration. It's actually basically what the human body does. So this is where where we call it sometimes corn sweat, or sometimes people will talk about wheat sweat or something like this. It's basically the same process that happens in the human body, except the plant is sucking all the water up through the soil with its roots.
So if all plants have the ability to do this, evapotranspiration, what is unique about corn and how it sweats?
Yeah. So all plants are sort of doing this more or less constantly, right? Like all plants are always sucking up water. But the thing is, how much water the plant wants to suck up will depend on where it is in its growth season. So if you have something like a coniferous tree, for instance, or like an evergreen tree, that tree will be sitting around in the soil and it's going to be taking water up the whole year and kind of transpiring, but it's at somewhat of a constant rate. When you look at something like corn, you have a really strong growing season. This is true of a lot of other crop plants too, like wheat or soybeans or something like this. You have this very strong growing season where, over the summer, the soil gets really wet and then the plants grow a ton. And so what's happening is that during the summer, these plants have their roots down in the upper part of the soil where it's really wet. And because they're growing, they're sucking up all the water and then transpiring pretty much constantly.
Okay, so that follows all of our patterns of weather we've had here. How does corn sweat contribute to humidity levels then? That's part of the issue, right?
Yeah. So there's a second factor that I should talk about here, which is, so one aspect of transpiration is that the plant wants to suck up lots of water from the soil and then bring it to the top. But the other thing is, in order to get that water to evaporate, there needs to be a difference between how much humidity is right on the surface of the plant because of transpiration trying to raise this water to the top, and then how able the atmosphere is above it to actually evaporate that water and suck it up. And how able the atmosphere is to evaporate water depends on a couple things. But the biggest factor is that it depends on what we call the saturation vapor pressure. This is kind of a fancy word, but when air gets really warm or warmer, it can hold more water vapor. And so you might have heard the term relative humidity, or your viewers might have heard the term relative humidity. This is what meteorologists use to describe basically how much capacity left the air has to hold water vapor. So 100% relative humidity means all the capacity to hold excess water vapor has been used up. Whereas if it's, say, 50% relative humidity, that means there's actually lots of capacity still to absorb more water from the surface underneath it.
Got it.
And so what happens on a really hot day is, even if the atmosphere is really moist, if it's really, really hot, the capacity of the air to hold water vapor is much higher than it normally would be, right? So especially like when the temperatures get, 30 or above, the way they've been in southern Manitoba recently, the capacity of the air to hold water vapor is really, really high. So actually, like, the relative humidity sometimes can be a little bit lower. And this is really great for evaporation. Evaporation really likes it when the air above it has a lot of capacity to hold water, because that means if I'm evaporating water vapor, that water vapor has somewhere to go. So
if there's no space and there's lots of corn sweating into the air, is that why we get a storm?
Yeah, that's so essentially, I like to think about it, those old like gas powered lawnmowers people used to have, or maybe still have?
Yeah.
So,
where you can never start them? Pull it again. Yep.
Yeah. So if you think about a storm as kind of like one of these old gas powered lawnmowers, kind of three things happened. So first, the temperatures got really warm. You can think about it, that is like making the gas tank really big. The second is that we had a lot of evapotranspiration. I was taking a little bit of a look at what some of the models were saying in terms of evapotranspiration over southern Manitoba. The numbers were kind of like 2 or 3 times what we would normally expect.
Okay.
So we won't know the exact number for another 5 days or a week, because it takes us a while to process the data and get caught up with things. But it was definitely much higher than it would normally be. And you can think that's kind of like pouring gas into the tank, right? So, the air being so warm made the tank really big. Evapotranspiration, that's like pouring gas into the tank. And then the third thing is you need somebody to, rev it up and pull that annoying cord. And that was, in the interview, the meteorologist mentioned there was something going on in the upper atmosphere. And so what happened was that there was a really big low pressure system, actually all the way in northern Saskatchewan. But a branch of that low pressure system extended into southern Manitoba. And there was a cold front that basically came through. And you can think that that was basically like revving the cord. Because basically what happened is when the cold front came through, there was this big pocket of warm, moist air that was created by the hot temperatures and evapotranspiration. Waiting, exactly. And that cold front came through and it lifted it up. And as that cold front came through and lifted it up, you can imagine that was just like revving the lawnmower, and the whole storm started from there.
Just last here, in our last final minute here, how does the climate, the bigger question here, play into this?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is something that I and a lot of my colleagues do a lot of research on. The shortest answer is that it's going to depend place to place. So some places we think evapotranspiration is going to go down. Some places we can think it's going to go over up. But the thing to remember overall is, remember what I said about how when air gets warmer, it can hold more moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out the magic number here is 7% per degree. So every degree that the temperature gets hotter, that means that the air can hold 7% more moisture.
Oh.
So if you think about something like extreme precipitation, if it's 2 degrees warmer, that means the air can hold 14% more moisture than it could before. So as temperatures increase and the capacity for the air to accept more moisture increases, we expect that things like evaporation, precipitation are overall going to get stronger, and we should see an increase in extreme weather.
That's quite a ratio, you said. 2 degrees in increase in temperature equals 14 degrees, 14% rather
14%.
more capacity. Yeah, for that space for more evapotranspiration, and then thus maybe chance for bigger storms and such. Really appreciate you explaining all of this, Robert. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much.
Very interesting. Robert Faber, Assistant Professor at McGill University's Department of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences.
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
Time right now, 11 minutes to 8 o'clock. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and thanks for being with us on CBC. It's 19 degrees in Winnipeg downtown, 15 at the airport, heading for a high of 28. So after what we've been living through, 28 with a humid X of 33 will be still hot and sticky, but not quite so crazy as we've had. It's actually a pretty tolerable morning out there right now across most of southern Manitoba. Should be a really nice day. Well, next on the show, as you may have heard in the news, this morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney is weighing in on what happened in Winnipeg. It is an event that also shook Winnipeg's Muslim community. I'm talking about the Rahma Islamic Center. People there, members saying shots were fired into their building on Watt Street. That's in the Chalmers neighborhood on Wednesday night. And shots were fired there while people were praying inside. So Prime Minister Mark Carney saying he's, quote, deeply disturbed by what happened. He also said this violent act of Islamophobia is appalling and has no place in Canada. Now, nobody was injured in this incident in Winnipeg, but the community obviously calls this disturbing. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, meantime, says security video does show 2 people hitting the building walls and breaking windows. Winnipeg police say they are investigating. It is a suspected investigating this rather as a suspected hate-motivated attack, though no arrests have been made. Faisal Adem has been speaking with CBC, Executive Director of the Rahma Islamic Center. He says this incident is a stark reminder of hateful attacks that have been happening not just here, but all across the country.
To be honest, as we stand before you today, we cannot remember another moment when we felt more shaken and disturbed as a member of Winnipeg Muslim community. Islamophobia is not it's not abstraction. We have read many reports about Islamophobia incident across Canada. We Muslims, we harassed, assaulted, intimidated. We have also read about many mosques and Islamic institutions being injured, targeted, and vandalized. We all remember about Quebec City incident, the terror that happened in London, Ontario. However, it is only this week that we frightened reality came directly to us. We often believe that incidents like this will not happen to us, but the sense of comfort, security quickly become an illusion. Last night, members of our community gathered together in this place quietly for prayer and remembrance. We are and have been always faithful, peaceful contributors to our community, our neighbors, and our city. Our neighbors have demonstrated the same last night when they came out and support us with the law enforcement. We are greatly thankful for them. The peace and sense of security that our members once felt have been deeply shaken by this incident. We hope that those responsible will be identified and held accountable for their action. To our elected officials, we want to ask you sincerely to listen to our appeal, to our message. Don't wait until the attack result another death, like the Quebec City incident or London, Ontario. Please sit with us, with group like NCCM, to contract a new way forward. What happened here last night does not happen or does not become normal in our community. We can build a new strategy against Islamophobia that tackle this problem at a national scale. You can fund a place of worship, a community centers, so that they can be safe at the time the Islamophobia is a real challenge to us. So, the process needs to start today, all of you, brothers and sisters. What happened to so many of us as a Muslim community across Canada cannot go on. We must do better. Thank you very much.
That was Faisal Adam, the executive director of the Rahma Islamic Center in Winnipeg, speaking out after the shots were fired at the mosque here. Sadaf Ahmed is who we're going to hear from next with the National Council of Canadian Muslims based in Manitoba. Last night she spoke as well, calling for more government action to crack down on hate.
Last night, as you've heard, 2 individuals drove by the Rahma Islamic Center and fired at the building while community members were inside. At this time, we're not certain of the kind of weapon used. The individuals then approached the building and slashed the exterior of the building with another weapon, causing further damage. Thankfully, no one was physically injured. The mosque's windows and walls sustained significant damage, and members of the community are shaken. Incidents like this have consequences that extend beyond physical damage, as you can surmise. They affect whether people feel safe gathering at their place of worship. I'd also like to just note how beloved Rahma is in the wider Muslim community, and I can't underscore the exemplary work that they do for our youth, and indeed for the youth broadly within this region. We have spoken with Muslim communities across Manitoba who increasingly question whether they can gather safely in their mosques, community centers, or even in public space visibly. As an organization, we say with confidence that this past month has marked a significant escalation in violent Islamophobic incidents across our country. We have received reports of incidents like the one at Rahma at a rate of approximately 1 every day for the past 30 days. This is an alarming pattern. People across the country have been assaulted, threatened, harassed, and intimidated on our streets, including at our parking lots in grocery stores or at grocery stores. Muslim communities across Canada are facing an escalating pattern of targeted hate. What happened here at Rahma is the consequence of hatred that has been allowed to escalate unchecked. Today, on behalf of the NCCM and the local community, we are calling for immediate and concrete action, echoing what Sheikh Faisal just iterated. First, we are calling for a continued investigation into this incident as a targeted hate crime, thorough and robust with adequate follow-up. Second, we urge both the provincial and federal governments to invest dedicated resources to help protect our institutions, Muslim institutions, Islamic institutions, as they have done for other communities facing targeted hate. And third, we urge Prime Minister Carney to direct the newly established Advisory Council to develop a revised national strategy to combat Islamophobia, the first of its kind, which was developed over 6 years ago now. This is a moment for all of us to stand together against hate and intimidation. Winnipeg is, of course, strongest when all communities can gather, worship, and live without fear. Thank you.
Sadaf Ahmed with the National Council of Canadian Muslims based in Manitoba. Winnipeg Police say Hate Crimes Unit continues to investigate, and if there's any information, video, dashcam video, contact Major Crimes 204-986-6219 or call Crime Stoppers directly. You can read more and find links on our CBC website. Still ahead on the program, also a story heavily being covered by CBC is what's going to happen with WestJet. One of our CBC associate producers was at the airport yesterday talking to Manitobans who are happy to fly out but worried they won't be able to return perhaps because of what's going on with the labor negotiations. So stay tuned. We're going to hear that coming up after 8. Right now, Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, as we head into the long weekend, Manitoba RCMP reminds you to travel safely. The police service says so far this year, this province has seen a 34% increase in road fatalities. It has responded to 43 fatal crashes in 2026, resulting in 48 deaths. That's just so far this year. We'll hear more from RCMP. And health officials can't say how soon dialysis services will be restored in Dauphin. Some patients have had to travel hours after flooding forced the regional health centre to close a month ago. An update virtually was given last night. We'll hear about it in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
15 right now at the airport, 19 in downtown Winnipeg, a high of 28. Still a number of intersections are closed. I shouldn't say closed, are with lights, without lights. Today because of the storm, so you might want to check before you go out and take precaution in Winnipeg, just in case. 788-3093 if you need to weigh in.
On cue.
A wood floor, real glass windows, room for the girls and one for us.
For the Ojibwe actor Migwen Fairbrother, Little House on the Prairie was a story that once left Indigenous people out. Now he stars in the Netflix reboot, and he's helping tell a different version of that story. He'll be here to tell you why that matters.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. So many Canadians are drowning in stuff, items accumulated over a lifetime by their parents or grandparents that they now don't know what to do with. How this emotional issue is becoming big business, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Sheehan Desjardins. U.S. President Donald Trump says a deal to end the war in Gaza is close. According to the White House, Hamas has agreed to a phased disarmament under the control of a Palestinian administration. But a member of the militant group says there will be no disarmament unless Israel completely withdraws from the Gaza Strip. CBC's Julia Chapman joins me now from London. Julia, what more do we know about this proposed deal?
Well, Hamas has never agreed to lay down its weapons before, so if it is signing up to a roadmap towards that, that is significant in itself. But crucially, we don't know yet whether Israel is on board. This was all negotiated in Cairo between Hamas and mediators. A Trump official quoted by U.S. media reportedly said the president would be very disappointed if Israel doesn't back this plan. And in exchange for Hamas disarmament, the agreement looks at a phased withdrawal of Israeli troops. They currently control upwards of 60% of Gaza. There will be huge resistance to that from Israel's powerful far-right faction, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has an election looming. But Trump says this deal will give Israel the security it deserves, but he needs to persuade the Israeli government of that. And a Hamas official has also been quoted as calling this a draft deal, so there is still a long way to go.
And what can we expect in the days and weeks ahead?
Well, there's still a lot we don't know about this. The Board of Peace, which put forward this agreement, says that Hamas equipment would be held by the Palestinian technocrats who will eventually run Gaza. There would also be a staged verification process. But Israel wants Hamas's weapons removed completely from Gaza. And for this plan to work, a clear timeline would have to be agreed because each side is insisting that the other one acts first. So Israel wants Hamas to disarm before it withdraws. But Hamas wants Israel to withdraw before it disarms. And that really underlines how deep the distrust is here. In the meantime, there are 2 million Palestinians living in squalor in Gaza, waiting for their lives to improve, still coming under attack from time to time. And meanwhile, many Israelis remain concerned about the threat from Hamas.
The CBC's Julia Chapman in London. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Major American oil companies are reporting massive profits fueled by rising global energy prices tied to ongoing military conflict with Iran. ExxonMobil doubled its second quarter earnings to over $14 billion, while Chevron nearly quadrupled its profits to $12 billion. The surging earnings come as shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz drive up fuel costs for consumers worldwide, sparking fresh calls from U.S. lawmakers for a windfall tax on big energy producers. Statistics Canada says the country's real GDP expanded by 0.3% in May. It's the second month in a row the Canadian economy has grown. Resource extraction led the charge, especially mining, quarrying, and oil and gas. Real estate, construction, and manufacturing also fared well. Tens of thousands of Canadian air travelers are hoping their long weekend plans do not stall due to impending job action. Flight attendants with WestJet are preparing to walk off the job on Sunday if they cannot reach a deal with the airline over pay and working conditions. CBC's Angie Seth joins me in studio with the latest. So Angie, where do negotiations stand right now?
So currently both WestJet and the union are at the bargaining table, but according to a representative for the union, the two sides are still far apart on some key issues, like unpaid work for ground duties is a big sticking point. But despite that, WestJet and its flight attendants have signed off on a plan to wind down operations. An internal note obtained by CBC News says this isn't a sign things are escalating or have escalated at the negotiation table, but it is about getting flights and employees home if there is a strike or lockout. Both sides say they are committed to getting to a deal. Talks continue. Deadline to reach that deal is August 2nd at 12:01 a.m.
All right, so when can passengers expect to begin feeling this?
Well, they're concerned, certainly, and experts are telling us, given the situation, to expect some flights to be canceled as early as today, and that would start with international flights. Now, WestJet says it will let customers know in advance of any flight cancellations or changes. So far, WestJet's travel advisory page does not mention any cancellations yet, so we're keeping a close eye on that. Passengers with flights booked between July 30th and August 4th, they'll be able to make a one-time change or cancel with no fee. And if delays or cancellations occur, passengers will be refunded or get a travel credit depending on the type of flight that they've booked. So in addition to this, Air Canada posted on its website that it'll be working with WestJet to accommodate passengers in the event of a travel disruption. Both Calgary and Vancouver airports have indicated they're working with airport operations, including WestJet, to help minimize any travel disruptions by increasing staff and support for passengers. So best for anyone flying WestJet right now is to keep your eye on your inbox for any updates from WestJet. And of course, Shan, to regularly check your flight status if you're flying with the company as well.
Angie, thank you for this.
You're welcome.
CBC's Angie Seth with me in studio. Ranchers in British Columbia say they're worried about the survival of their cattle industry. The province is restricting agricultural water use amid severe drought conditions across the region. Reduced water access means producers will have to buy extra feed and risk losing existing crops. Brady Strachan has the details.
I'm just so proud of this group of heifers.
Trudy Schweb shows off a pen of dark brown Angus heifers on her fifth-generation ranch near Salmon Arm.
When you get to look at pretty cattle like this, life is pretty good.
But pervasive drought in the region is threatening local salmon species. And this week, the province ordered producers to stop irrigating their forage crops.
This water shutoff is probably going to cost us $100,000 at least in feed.
Fish biologist Eleanor McGrath says the order is a last resort to save Chinook salmon from record low water levels.
These fish are fairly large in size, so they are especially susceptible to low stream flows.
Kevin Boone with the BC Cattlemen's Association says a possible long-term solution is to build up more water storage like reservoirs.
And we're asking government to invest in that because it's the future of the province and the food security for everybody in the province.
Water Minister Randine Neal points to $100 million in water investments, but agrees emergency shutoffs aren't sustainable.
We don't want to go through this again, so we are going to do everything we can to ensure they have enough water.
Meanwhile, Schweb worries about the future of her family ranch.
It's a lot. You hate to walk away from it, but like how many times do we have to put up with this?
Leaving producers to foot the bill for protecting the river. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
A relentless heat wave across southwestern Europe is making a bad situation worse this morning, forcing thousands more people from their homes. CBC's Nala Ayed is on the ground in France. Nala, where are you right now?
We are in a small community called Saint-Jean-d'Yac, which is just west of the city of Bordeaux. This is one of the several districts that whose residents have been allowed to return in the past day or so. There are still firefighters here shoveling in the ground, literally checking meter by meter to make sure that any remaining fires are dealt with. And what is helping them right now is better weather. It has vastly improved in the last 48 hours. The temperatures are falling, there's higher humidity, and as a result, officials from the Gironde district were saying that they feel the situation is stable, that the fire is contained within a perimeter. So about 144,000 people of the 220 who are evacuated are now allowed to return home gradually and with a vigilant eye, of course, to the weather and what is still an unpredictable situation where fires are concerned.
And what can you tell us about the conditions in the most affected areas?
Well, yesterday we were in the village of Le Porge, which is arguably one of the most affected in the fire last week. 3,500 people were evacuated from there. We were able to see some of the damage that was sustained. More than 180 homes have been destroyed, and most of the residents have not been able to return because there are still fires active nearby. We even saw some of the smaller ones smoldering right on the outskirts of town. And also the air quality is of a great concern with a lot of CO2 still in the air. So there's still a lot of activity there. Volunteers, firefighters, police trying to contain the situation, bring it under control, and perhaps be able to get some of the residents back, in the foreseeable future. But it will take a little longer before they can return. And those, of course, who have lost their homes, it might even be a little longer.
That's CBC's Nala Ayed joining us from Saint-Jean-d'Iac, France. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Cheyenne Deschardins.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC's Information Radio on this last day of July. It's going to be hot today, but not quite as humid and sticky as we've had. 19 has been the latest recorded temperature in Winnipeg. Abby may have an update on that in a moment. Well, are you worried about WestJet? As we've just been hearing, we are all following this story across the country from CBC. They may ground some flights, in fact, today. CBC was at the airport yesterday talking to folks flying with WestJet, but a lot of them concerned about returning back home after their trips. We're going to hear more about what some folks had to say. Also, you might be hitting the highway today.
Le highway était bon pour quand t'as venu? Le highway était bon. Je l'ai téléphoné à 8 heures. À 8 heures le matin, je l'ai téléphoné. Pour dire m'en venir. Oui. Si tu fais une visite à personne à la maison? J'arrange mes cheveux, puis je m'arrange mon linge.
Are you guys talking about doing your hair this morning?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm proud of myself. I was proud because those three women from St. Laurent, Manitoba, were talking about, well, hitting the highway, getting to the interview on time, but doing their hair. I made out what they were saying because it was French. However, it wasn't French. It was Michif French. It is a dialect that St. Laurent, Manitoba, those three women have written a book about. And so stay tuned. We're going to hear more about that as we visit some of our favorite conversations on Information Radio for this summer. So stay tuned. That's this half hour. Right now, Heather Wells is in with headlines.
Good morning. Well, members of Winnipeg's Islamic community are shaken after an attack on a mosque. It happened Wednesday night. Now the Winnipeg Police Service Hate Crimes Unit is investigating, and the Prime Minister weighing in, saying that kind of violence has no place in Canada. We'll hear more. And a Winnipeg woman is suing an international construction union, alleging she was wrongfully dismissed earlier this year. It comes after her father, a senior union member at the time, was accused of unapproved real estate deals. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Abby.
Yeah, we're looking at a comfortable morning. We'll see lots of sunshine this morning and then a mix of sun and clouds later. Most of the regions warming up to 28 later. It's 20 in the city.
All right. We have some intersections that are still down for lights after the storms. You want to check the hydro map first. 788-3093. Well, let's get you to the airport now to hear about what's happening with WestJet. WestJet could begin, as you know, cancelling some flights today. The Canadian Union of Public Employees issued their 72-hour strike notice this week, yesterday.
Sarah Snyder.
Sunday operations will begin to wind down completely Now, WestJet flight attendants are asking to be paid when they're working on the ground. The second largest Canadian air carrier says employees are compensated through a credit hour system rather than hourly. That's the dispute. Let's talk about the travel. Summer travel plans for many are at risk. And as I mentioned, CBC Manitoba's Sophia Peralta-Barone was at the Winnipeg airport yesterday and talked to a family departing from here.
Sarah Snyder.
Hannah Snyder.
Julian.
When you heard of a possible strike and that your travel plans were coming up soon, how did you feel?
Disappointed that they couldn't settle it and then it's come as far as it has, that the staff really feel they need to strike. So, yeah, and I feel like we've already done this with Air Canada, and I thought WestJet might be a little bit more proactive and not, especially the summer. Like, a lot of people are traveling, and it's just really unfortunate.
Where are you headed to?
We're headed back to Ontario, so that is where I am from, and my father-in-law turned 80 this year, so there's a big family gathering at the cottage to celebrate his 80th birthday.
And how did it feel to sort of have that plan be at risk?
Well, you only turn 80 once, and it's really hard to coordinate a whole bunch of family members to get together in one place. And then there's the logistics of booking time off work, and it's not like we can just get in a car and drive there. It's a 2.5 day drive. It's very inconvenient to have your travel plans change at the last minute.
And how long have you been looking forward to this trip?
Since Christmas. Yeah, it's been in the works for a long time.
You're headed to Toronto, you're able to get on this flight, but if your flight back home cancels, what are you going to do?
We're lucky in the fact that we have lots of family near, like in Toronto, GTA area, so we would just stay with family and wait until we were rebooked. I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, and luckily my kids are older, so that also is really nice, because when you have young kids and you are stuck at the airport, and just it's so different now, airline travel. Like, you can't talk to a person at the airport. It all has to be called in, and you have to wait online, and it's a nightmare.
What do you hope to see from WestJet and the union when they're talking out this issue?
I hope that the airline attendants get a fair deal. I think most of us agree it's way overdue, and they should be paid for their time on the airplane, not just in the air. It's just really frustrating that we're here again with our other national carrier. Just really glad that they didn't cancel my flight today.
So Hannah, how did you feel? Were you looking forward to this trip?
Yes, I am looking forward to it. This is my only trip all summer.
How did it feel to hear that it could possibly be canceled, or your flight back home could possibly be canceled?
Last summer, I had the same experience where I was supposed to fly to Toronto, but then the Air Canada strike happened, so that my flight got canceled, and I was flying out to school, so it was a little bit stressful because I wanted to get everything ready. I have a job, so I've put in my availability, and I'm supposed to be scheduled for when I come back. So if that doesn't work out and I don't get my plane back on schedule, plane back to Winnipeg, then I'd have other things to deal with in terms of responsibilities to take care of. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't last long enough, because I'm going to be going back to Toronto early September, so I'm hoping that won't be a problem come then.
Julian, how old are you, Julian?
I'm 10.
Were you looking forward to this trip?
Yes, very.
Yeah, why were you looking forward to the trip?
Because I get to see my family, my cousins, and I get to spend time at the lake, and I haven't been doing that lately.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. And if your flight gets canceled to come back home, would you like that, or would...
Yes, I would.
Why would you like for your flight to be canceled?
So I could spend more time with family.
So that was Sophia Peralta-Barone speaking with a family at the airport yesterday here in Winnipeg. They are booked on WestJet. If you want to read more about the story and also about the very latest, you can visit cbc.ca. We checked this morning. CBC nationally has been doing the latest updates and saying that WestJet's travel advisory page so far does not mention any cancellations yet.
I'm Eric Westaver. I'm your local reporter for CBC in Northern Manitoba, and you're listening to CBC Radio 1.
8:17 is the time right now. And thanks for joining us. Today's high in Winnipeg, 28, last day of July. And if you were listening to CBC earlier this month on Q, they had a story and an interview about Bloodlines, which is a film that follows a story out of small town Saskatchewan. But they were talking about it on Q because it features the rare Métis language Michif. Well, we know Michif in Manitoba, especially 5 women from St. Laurent who put their pens to paper to preserve Michif French words, history, and recipes.
We have traditional Métis recipes. I love that.
So what's meatball in Michif?
Boulette, 3 livres d'hamburger, un oignon.
See, I can see right there you said onion, but you didn't say l'oignon. You said oignon. There's a Y in there.
Yeah, oignon.
Is the Y present in a lot of the language? I noticed that also in some of the other words.
Like famille here says, or if you say it in French, it's Famille. That's how you make it, famille. But here, famille, Famiyl.
We write it like we pronounce it.
We taught ourselves how to write it.
Nobody taught us how to
For
write
this
it.
book?
Yes.
June, Bruce, Agathe Chartrand, and Laurent Coutu are 3 of the living authors of a book called Michif French, as spoken by Michif people of Saint Laurent. I visited them in March of 2024 in a bright sunroom surrounded by windows and a nice fireplace just off the main highway number 6 here in Manitoba. So they were sitting, these women, shoulder to shoulder in their beaded moccasins, one with a turtle pin, another with Métis earrings, and the infinity symbol and Métis tattoo on her forearm, in fact. So we wanted this morning to revisit some of our favorite interviews on CBC, and this is one of mine. They told me why they published in 80 pages, what they published in 80 pages just might save this dialect of French for future generations. That's their hope. And as you'll hear, these women meant business. Can you tell me what is on your shirt?
Straight out of St. Laurent.
You guys have got like the straight out of Compton shirts, but straight out of St. Laurent. I love that. Born and raised here, June?
Born and raised here.
Born and raised right here.
Like you're pointing out the window, literally?
Yeah, across the road, next to the fish shed.
Agathe?
Yeah.
And how old are you ladies now? I know it's a rude question, but it's going to play into us talking about some history of language.
I'm 84.
I'll be 78 tomorrow.
And I'll be 77 in June.
Have you guys known each other for a long time?
All our lives. Yeah. All our lives.
Now, we're here to talk about language.
I've always been Michif, like from day one when we were born. We didn't know we were different. We always talk Michif French. We didn't know the difference between other languages.
I mean, we thought everybody was the same.
So when did you hear other kinds of French?
At school, it was the nuns from Quebec, and we have to learn their language, or else we were sent in the back of the class.
When the nuns came in speaking French, and they wanted all of us to speak the French like they spoke, Quebec French. Yeah, the Quebec French, we didn't know there was a difference. Like our Michif French, we spoke it all our lives, but it was never, ever written down. It was all oral.
Yeah, we wrote it down. We were the first ones to write it down. This book.
What you're holding is a book that says Michif French, as spoken by most Michif people in Saint Laurent. And you 3 women are 3 of the authors of this book. There were
5.
There were 5. 2 have passed away.
2 passed away. Patsy Miller and Doris Mikolienko. Yeah. They passed away.
So how did this happen? How did you get together and say, we're going to be the ones to write this down?
Well, we went to a meeting in Winnipeg at the Manitoba Métis Federation, and it was supposed to be a Michif language. And then we got there, and there was a whole room of people. And they were laughing and talking and like crazy, like, we didn't understand a word they were saying, but they were talking in Michif Cree. And we said to ourselves, that's not how we speak in Saint Laurent. So when we came back home, we sat together and we said, well, we're going to write our own.
That's when we started, 2011.
How long did it take you to get this put together?
5 years. Yeah, every Tuesday. We met here in St. Laurent at MMF. They gave us a room there.
Why did you think it was important to do, Agathe? Why did you want to be part of it?
The language was dying down, so we have to do something, I guess.
We're just like 5 sisters. Yeah. It was fun. It was very important because our language was dying down, and all the young kids, they all spoke English. Like really it's just our generation, all the elders that spoke much of French, and we wanted it for the kids to learn in school, which they do today. Yeah. We just didn't want the language to be forgotten.
It's pretty amazing that you took that initiative.
Yeah, there are some words in our language in Michif French that we use as Cree words, like, I don't know, a shikak, a skunk, but that's a Cree word. We didn't know that. I thought that was the proper word for a skunk. And until I went to someplace where they speak good French, and they started laughing. He said, we call that a moufette. So I never heard their word before. A moufette or bête piante. Yeah. But so we have a few Cree words in our language.
Is Michif French unique to this area, or where else will you hear it in Canada, or where else in Manitoba?
Saint Eustache, and Saint Laurent.
Is it outside of Manitoba anywhere? Do you know?
Yes, it is. At the end of this month, we're going to Saskatoon for a workshop from St. Louis, Saskatchewan. They speak like us, like the Michif French. A lot of the people, when they had to move away from Saint Laurent, in the days when they had to, disperse the people, a lot of people went to Saskatchewan, when a lot of people went to...
So they took the language from here to other places on the prairies.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
How do you feel when you speak it?
Feel good, especially if whoever you're talking to understands you, and they speak back to you in Michif. Yes.
How do you feel when you speak it?
I'm happy when I hear them talking my language.
When we spoke Michif French at school, the nuns got mad at us, and they used to tell us, "You speak like little Indians." They told us every time we said something in Michif French.
Where were you going to school?
Right here, Simonette School.
Like up the road from highway, just off the highway?
Right over there. There's a fish shed, a blue fish shed there.
Yeah.
And that's where the school used to be.
You must be awfully proud that you did this.
Yeah. Very, very proud.
We're on our second book.
Okay. Yeah. Where is that? What are you working on now? Breaking news.
We're just making another book. It's not a dictionary, it's stories. We're writing that all down, and
through a cultural lens, the customs and the cultures through a Michif French lens.
Yeah. I think we have 5 chapters, and it'll be in English and Michif.
It's going to be with pictures too, so our own pictures.
What do you hope the future is for Michif French and for your culture?
Well, I hope they're taught in all the schools out here. Even in Winnipeg, they're starting to teach them in schools. My grandkids and my great-grandkids, I hope they all speak it.
How about you? What do you hope the future holds, Agathe, for Michif French and for your culture?
For the kids, my niece and nephew, while they come at my place, I talk to them Michif, and sometimes they don't understand, but when I get mad, they understand.
You get in trouble in Michif French. I've loved meeting you and spending some time with all of you. Thank you so very much for sharing your culture and your language.
More than welcome.
Oh, you're welcome, Ben.
One of my personal favorite conversations, June, Bruce, Agathe Chartrand, and Laurent Coutu. I spoke with them in 2024 when we were talking about their book, Michif French, as spoken by most Michif people of Saint Laurent. That's the title. It was first published back in 2016. As you heard, they went to a conference in that year, and there's a lot of talk about the language. Just recently on Q, that film coming out that I mentioned this month, a conversation with Tom Power about it. It includes Michif, and it focuses on how it was spoken in a community in Saskatchewan. That film is called, if you're looking for it, Bloodlines. And if you want to read more about the women and what they're up to now from Saint Laurent, go to ameliadouglasinstitute.ca. There's a series of videos there that you can see with the storytelling aspects of Michif with our Manitobans representing, which I love. 8:27 is the time now, and let's slide on some summer music. It's Friday, last day of July. We're heading into the long weekend. Here's Tate McRae and Greedy.
Are you serious? I try, but I can't figure out. I've been next to you all night and still don't know what you're about. You keep talking, but not much coming out your mouth. Can't you tell that I want you? I say it. I would want myself. Let me please believe it. I'll put you through hell. Just know me, yeah.
Tate McRae and Greedy going to be performing at Oceana coming up in, I'm just rolling myself back here. Do I have a date for that, for Oceana? There we go. Oceaga. I'm saying Oceano. In Montreal this weekend. There you go. Coming up right around the corner. So that is one of our biggest hits, of course. Festival organizers, by the way, are expecting 50,000 fans are going to be pouring into the island for Oceaga every day. So it's crazy. It's going to be busy. Good for her for performing. Let's talk about the noon call-in. I just want to mention it here and join us on noon. I'm hosting 12:15. We'll open the lines. Some tourism experts say that roadside attractions aren't worth it. They're costly relics of the past. They're too expensive to maintain. Are they worth it to you? What are some of your faves in Manitoba? So that's the call-in. Join us at 12:15. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It is sunny and 20. Beautiful way to end the month of July. Mix of sun and clouds today with a high of 28. Members of Winnipeg's Islamic community are shaken after an attack on a mosque happened Wednesday night outside the Rahma Islamic Center on Watt Street. Members were inside when they say a car drove past, firing shots into a window. A security camera later captured two suspects walking up to the mosque and breaking more windows. Faisal Adam is the center's imam and executive director.
But the hope is when you see at late night the neighborhood come from home and they stood with us outside, that gives me a hope that we Manitobans, Winnipeggers can stand together and have positive impact in our community.
Before the incidents, two people were reported to have walked by the mosque shouting racist comments. The Winnipeg Police Service Hate Crimes Unit is investigating. Now, the Prime Minister is weighing in on this attack. Mark Carney says he is deeply disturbed by what happened and says this violent act of Islamophobia is appalling and has no place in Canada. A university food expert says the imminent closure of a downtown Winnipeg giant tiger could be a sign of the neighborhood's decline. The store is set to close November 7th, but the company hasn't given a reason. Many in the downtown core shop there. Natalie Riediger says without it, the area could become a so-called food desert. She works in food and human nutritional sciences at the University of Manitoba.
Businesses closing in lower income areas is a signifier of community that's not well. Giant Tiger is a bigger business, but we know in public health that communities that are well have a thriving business community. There's not a lot of hope in terms of things getting better unless we do something different. And this impacts real people, right, who now have to go further for food.
Riediger says people on a fixed income are more likely to go to larger chains that charge less. And if Giant Tiger tried to match those lower prices, she says it may not be able to stay afloat. Well, as we head into the long weekend, Manitoba RCMP remind you to travel safely. The police service says so far this year, the province has seen a 34% increase in road fatalities. The police have responded to 43 fatal crashes in 2026, resulting in 48 deaths. Those include 5 people who died on all-terrain off-road vehicles or dirt bikes. Alcohol or drug impairment, police say, is behind 12 deaths. Health officials say they cannot say how soon dialysis services will be restored in Dauphin. Some patients have had to travel hours after flooding forced the regional health centre to close a month ago. A virtual town hall last night provided an update. Prairie Mountain Health CEO Trina Slate says a lot of progress has been made, including the upcoming restoration of some lab services and diagnostic testing in temporary locations. But she says it will take a long time before the hospital systems can safely be brought back online.
There's been significant damage to our building and the critical infrastructure that is really the heart and lungs of this large building that was so important to all of us.
Slate says dialysis services are expected to be restored in the coming months, but no firm timelines have been set. A Winnipeg woman is suing an international construction union alleging she was wrongfully dismissed earlier this year. It comes after her father, a senior union member at the time, was accused of unapproved real estate deals. The lawsuit filed says Jaylyn Rowe worked for the United Brotherhood of Carpenters. In May, her dad, Jason Rowe, resigned as head of the Carpenters Regional Council after reports he was living in a house paid for by the organization. Jaylyn says she was locked out of her work computer without explanation on May 19th. Around that time, her father and other employees were being investigated on allegations of unapproved real estate transactions. The lawsuit says she had no knowledge of the transaction and was accused of corruption and fired. No statement of defense has been filed and none of the allegations have been proven in court. Well, mosquito fogging is set to begin in several parts of Winnipeg today. The insecticide program mandated by the province as it responds to high levels of mosquitoes responsible for West Nile virus. The city says today's fogging will hit northern neighborhoods like the Maples and Amber Trails, and in southern neighborhoods like Bridgewater and Linden Ridge. Spraying has also been mandated for several rural areas, including Carman, Stonewall, and Winkler. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right. Big list of thank yous for the week. I'm just going to go everyone's names. So Nellie Gonzalez, Leif Larson, Darren Mirage, Heather Wells, Matt Humphrey, Aaron Broman, Megan Ketcherson, and Joni Nicolo, Nadia Kidway, Marjorie Dalhouse, Faith Fundell, and Bruce Layden, as well as Kaylin Monkman, Emily N., Sophia Peralta Barone, Chloe Friesen, Dylan Longhurst, Jenica Sewell, Marshall Hodgins, May McKillop, Chidi Akuma, Sierra Sanders, Abby Adeyemi, and Corey Funk. Thank you, everybody, for your work. Last look at the drive and the commute. May?
No phone calls in the last little bit, but I have been hearing a lot about traffic lights across the city that are still out due to the storm. You can check Manitoba Hydro for the power outage map.
All right. Have a great long weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Abby?
Of all the weeks in July, this is the most beautiful Friday, I'll tell you for sure, Marcy. We're looking at temperatures warming to 28 across the southern regions, and up north we'll see 25s there. Winnipeg, we're at 19 right now. It's beautiful outside. We will get to 28 later. Enjoy your beautiful weekend.
Yeah, it is nice. Abby and I are both off on Monday. There is a show here, though, so you can tune in. And it's been nice to be with you on Friday. I haven't been hosting on Fridays, so nice to spend some time with you. I'm also hosting Radio Noon, so if you want to join the call-in about roadside attractions, as you heard, some tourism agencies saying not worth paying for them anymore. What do you think? Are you taking some snapshots out there with Happy Rock or the Turtle and Boys of Ain? 12:15, join the call-in with us on Radio Noon. Be nice to talk with you. In the meantime, next on CBC, it's The Current.